These interviews in no way reflect the views of Arrayas Productions. This project is in no way endorsed by Arrayas Productions. As students in a continuous state of learning and frequency accretion, we each hold our own unique perspective of the teachings and how they relate to our individual experiences. It is important for viewers to remember that we are in fact self-sovereign beings with free will expression, and we each carry our own perceptual filters with potential for distortion. These interviews are intended to inspire, and in no way should reflect upon Aisha, Arrayas Productions, or any of her work, as there is no affiliation. More information on the Alhambra Magistracy Council of Cosminius, the Melchizedek Cloister Emerald Order, Tantri Aura, Tantri Asia, and the Keylontic Science can be found in the provided links below.
I'm 32 years old, I'm from the Netherlands. I've known Keylontic Science for, well, this is going into the 10th year, with intervals in 2006 and 9 doing work with Katara and getting introduced in that level, and then more material becoming available, so be able to continue that work, because only when you have material at hand you can work with it. And from there onwards, 2010, 11 and 12, having much free time. So in that way, have my time to do the workshop, to do the techniques, to get to the levels I plan to go. And the shift for me happened in 2012. Well, a little bit earlier, there was an event, I'll talk about it later. 2012 was when, in the short version was, me took over guardianship of planetary Stargate 12 Montsegur and relieved the current guardian of it that was not in body but on higher level, and me actively taking over the custodianship. So in that way it became for me from being a Keylontic Science practitioner and follower and doing the work to being actually active in duty as a guardian. So that's the short version of how it kind of gotten into it all.
What were you practicing before KS? Like what spiritual practices?
Nothing really in any way, shape or form. I knew about Reiki because my grandmother did Reiki healing, and other people always told me I have it naturally in me, the hands-on healing, but for the rest, me wasn't like deep into yoga or deep into Kabbalah or deep into nothing specific, more like finding my own way and having a very broad spectrum of things that I interested in, from science to spirituality, but never being drawn into the mega new age stuff, but along the way finding out things, like many people that begins with solfeggio tunes and things like that, and then learning other things where you can be shown the difference. But like, yeah, if people Google sacred geometry, everything they will find about what is so-called sacred is about Fibonacci and Flower of Life.
Yeah.
So most people, whether it's good or bad, that's their step into the bigger what is out there.
Definitely. That's come up recently with a KS friend's husband was asking me questions about the Fibonacci, and I had the opportunity to actually present graphs and show the crystal spiral and versus the Fibonacci spiral and kind of go into detail about that. And I think that's like a lot of the core mechanics of KS is based on that spiral and the geometries and the Cathara grid versus the Kabbalah and everything.
Yeah, and also with how
Merkabah too.
how the spirals sometimes can be found in stones or rocks. And yeah, if you have the kinetic science info, you can talk about it. Yeah, Milky Way is 2/3 Metatronics and 1/3 original energy. So 2/3 means dominant. So that's what you will find more in the nature creation because of the energy balance.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of people that do come into the work from that were already doing Reiki and energy healing and stuff. So it's really good. I think that there's kind of a blend happening with the teachings with people like that in the Reiki consciousness and stuff too.
Yeah, and same way you have people with Reiki angelic healing. Yeah,
Huh.
then it's okay. Who is up there running the energy through you? So to whom are you a medium, and how does it affect your client?
Yeah. Right. And what
and
what
even
angels?
more that with Katara healing for hand-on practitioner, the first thing you are learned is your own shield up, then activate your client shields, and then you have a safe environment where you can energetically interact with.
Exactly. Instead of calling on Archangel Michael, all these angels and
Oh yeah, the blue flame.
yeah, all these helpers. That's amazing. Yeah. So what was the first impact, I guess, like, how did you find KS again? Where did you find it at?
On Demonoid torrents, that was the first actual material,
Just
and the
doing a
rest
search?
was already posted. For example, on Avalon forum, you had the Shiva 777 who posted much of the info and like the the summary 1 and 2 infos and copying parts, and in that way spreading the info a bit, and then also seeing the resistance to the info, like the Tuban, and the Mist of Avalon, and the Tony Bersander, who was with that group, and how that, yeah, basically fits into the drama game of groups and people. And some people are from this line, and some people are from this line, so they will defend their own paradigm. Because yeah, I always say the biggest manipulation from people onto them is from their soul level. And it doesn't matter if they're from blue flame, violet flame, or gold flame. The biggest manipulation is soul level density 2 onto the incarnate.
Density 2, 4, 5, and 6
Yeah.
dimensions? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, there was people saying from the avatar level also that there's a lot of tampering with. But
Yeah,
it seems
it's
like that was the first thing that Flame Body kind of tackled was astral and well, how high did the Emerald Amethyst Awakening go? That went up to the Key Roche, the 13, 14, and 15, right?
yeah. I think because I was checking something from a girlfriend about Amorea Fountain. You also have Amorea Buffer, and Amorea
Yeah,
Buffer is 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
yeah,
So in
yeah,
that way, the bigger package.
yeah.
And yeah, some things are personal for people because they have their own personal template and their own personal history, and some people will have a problem on the soul level, some will have an oversoul level, some on avatar
Exactly.
level, and that's that personal thing. You cannot overcopy that one to this person to that person.
Yeah, yeah. So what is your take on the new information with the plasmas and how some people think that after failsafe we have the plasmas, so that's all you need to do because plasmas is all encompassing and it basically covers the whole dimensional scale and it's what the dimensions are made out of, actually, is how I understand it being explained. So do you think that we don't need to do any of the older material now because we have the plasmas and that's all you need to do, or how do you feel about that?
It's in an expression of like a coin has two sides. You can say, okay, one side is spirituality and the other side science, and it's part of the same coin. The bond around it is the connecting point. So it's not only like sometimes people get lost on conspiracy and not the other side of the coin, so they get lost. So in this way also, yes, you have failsafe. If you can activate your truer body, it will affect all levels of your self and will progressively heal. Doesn't mean you sit back on your ass and don't do anything else on this side of external creation simply because other things are progressively healing, Shana Dean still says all of the older work is still fully compatible with the new work. So some people have gotten to oversoul level integration, some have avatar integration. So it's still their own responsibility what they do on this side that directly to what level you embody and can work with.
Do you think they need regular maintenance, like the flame body and like the MRA buffer and the dimensional scale of our anatomy? Do you think all of that needs like regular routine maintenance?
Yeah,
Like how often
eventually,
do you
yes.
do it?
Because either you have your plasma, which will, it's also like a battery. It's the same thing like basic Maharic shield. In the first time, it only is a couple of hours active after it reduces again. So your body is like a battery, and your battery has charge capability. The more you use it, the bigger your battery becomes, the bigger your energy anchoring capacity becomes.
That's
So
a really
it's
good definition of it. I haven't heard that before, but that's a really good definition. I just did an interview with Stephanie Sellers, and she was giving the definition of it like taking a shower. You know, like how you have to have hygiene, and after a while of not doing the Maharic seal, it's like you start getting dirty, and you have the urge to take a fresh shower, and you come out of the shower, and it's still resonating your pillar and the Maharic frequency and everything. But I
yeah,
haven't heard the analogy.
you have to reinforce your energy, and it doesn't matter if it's your pillar of light you need to reinforce or your your plasma. It's the same thing. You have to recharge, and if you don't recharge, yeah, other things will still affect your higher levels. But you are here in body, and if you want to be an embodied Adashi master adept, yeah, then you better do what you came in to do. And yes, you have people that are like with the ordination levels. You have level 1, 2, 3, elder consummate, all the way up to Eka level 6. Well, not everybody came in as Eka level 6, but with the DNA upgrade from 12 to 24 means people still can embody that full level. Doesn't simply proof come in, as people say, by just sitting around in a circle with people and singing Kumbaya. No. So in that way, yes, it doesn't require work, and it requires the experience. Once you do it, you experience, and from experience, you can speak about.
That's the one thing that stood out to me was just even group mechanics or shield mechanics and scalar waves and everything, and just how when humans gather, there's a shield that's made under them. You know, you have your own Maharic shield, but then you gather with others, and there's enough people, it creates a group shield. And then everybody's a part of that. And it's very organic, and it's part of human anatomy that just kind of naturally happens. And I've actually had the opportunity to witness it with these interviews and how people come forward in a certain facet of consciousness that is all a part of the same thread of topic up for discussion. And because the last interviews I did, it was like back to back, and that was like a group shield. It was just like a gathering of people, and then it stopped for like about 5 or 6 months, and now it's just now starting to pick up again. And there's like a new topics that are being brought up that are different from the last one. So it's like a whole nother voice, whole nother shield that's kind of coming together. It's fascinating to actually witness it and see it firsthand. But you
Yeah,
have that in
so
sports, and you have that in social clubs, and I mean everything really. It's in all walks of life, interactions and stuff.
there was last year somewhere in December, because like in the Indigos group, or you cannot speak about dreams. Just like in the list, oh, that's something we do not touch. But at the same time, you have with the dreamscape, it's all about dreams.
Yeah,
And
dreams. Yeah.
yeah, depending on your own level of embodiment and integration is where you can access levels of dream time. So it's not only astral. Same way, a friend of mine that lives on the other side of the world in Tobago, we brought him from oversoul level to avatar level, and then going into blue orb state into Yana's level, and that was his wish at the beginning to reconnect to the Yana's level. And in that way, in personal interaction, in dream time, literal training, brought him all the way up to his own levels of reconnection. And in that way, yeah. Like one time he called me sensei. I'm like, I'm no sensei. I'm not here to train people or want to be put in that position of role.
Right. What is Giannis level again? Where's Giannis?
Janas is the polaric ecodic triadic primal sound fields.
This is sounding like Cathara 2-3, right? Those
Like you have D15 Kirashada, that's your Rishi, that's primal light fields, and then you have primal sound fields.
Okay.
With Vajjayanas, Grandyanas, and
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's just the different names for the dimensions and
yes.
the frequencies. Okay, gotcha. All right. Wow.
So in the same way, there's a guy, Gary, with icheckyoursoulscope.com, and he did, if you send me a mail, I will with Pendulum check for you your soul score, and in that I got info back, you are a wanderer, and if there are 4 types of wanderer, type 1 there are the most of, and 2 and 3 and 4 are the most rare, you are of type 4. And he was describing how I am here now, to basically complete all other missions of all other incarnations in the here and in the now, to all round it up. So that also corresponds to info with kinetic science and my own personal path, integrating, embodying, and moving on, and then getting the confirmation. Like, I can quote one part, I already had it open. You will know the speaker contract from 2012, the PDF.
Yeah. And who is this? You said that somebody did a reading on
there was Gary from icheckyoursoulscore.com, and he works off the Love One material, so on that level of information, and then dowsing with pendulum answers about person, and then giving that info back. And based on the info he gave back, plus my own info, plus the Kelontics info, blending it all together, yes, what he is giving me info is correct.
Does he does KS also? He practices?
No. But
No? Okay.
but he was interesting about info on my site and about DNA strands, where he knew about like 8. Oh, you have more info on your site, so let me check it out, because that fills in the missing gaps for people, and then they can connect it in their own way, the dots, to see the bigger picture.
Right. Okay. He doesn't know anything about KS, but he's doing readings, and it's like in synchronicity with your KS path, I guess, your Christic path. And so, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So
well, as you know, there's some people in KS that would say, like, if other people are doing readings and they're not actually practicing this work, that there could be a chance of infiltration and distortion and all these things. There's hardcore people in the group that just don't believe in anything outside of KS to go to as far as help and as far as readings. Those are pretty much off limits, and you're aware of that, right?
Oh yeah, but still.
What are your thoughts on that?
Like, there are only so few people who know about kinetic science. So if there are 7 billion people and there are, say, 10,000 people that know about kinetic science, means you must disregard all of those other billions of people simply because you have a better, good vertical connection than they have. They still have their own higher self, but many times in the New Age spiritual world, what people call higher self connection is most of the time soul level connection. Not oversoul, avatar, Rishi, because Rishi is what we would call higher self. So in that way, when he is using a pendulum, it's still his own connection. And you honor the person based on his info and his purity or in his own. And yeah, many people, some people got in via Reiki, some people got in via the Love One material, some people got in via the Camelot video. One moment. Right.
Do you mind telling us a little bit about how you formed if you don't mind me bringing up the group, Emerald Guardians group on Facebook, which is how I met you. that you had shared one of the interviews that I've done. Do you mind sharing the story behind that, of how that came to be, how you formed it?
It was on WordPress. I had a blog, Gatekeeper XYX, but that one eventually got banned, so I remade a new one on Blogger. And
Wait,
with
it
my
got banned, you
yeah,
said?
because of copyright. If you have one big list of copyright and it's like 10 in one time, then WordPress automatically poofs your whole account and everything is gone.
We share a similar story, my friend.
So in that way, since 2010, my website been up and online, and with my own domain name, being able, yeah, to choose the name I wanted versus the WordPress domain. And I've maintained my blog over time, and like Ash Grimshaw's Flower of Life post, where it originally was removed from his blog, it's still on my blog. And the second version is also still on my blog, and other things are
That's
still
good.
present there. So
There's like an obvious censorship of this material. I mean, there's copyrights, but then there's a step beyond copyrights that happens to where there's just a blatant censorship of the. I mean, you
yeah,
can feel the encryption of people's intentions trying to get this work out to other people that are not distorting the work, they're not tampering with it. Their heart is pure in their efforts of trying to mainstream this and trying to get this out more. And then when there's an outright just takedown of all of the work that these people have done, it becomes censorship in my mind
yeah.
instead of copyright issues. Like this is a censorship issue.
That's why I pointed back to the quote of Janadine herself. This work is not of her; it belongs to humanity.
Yeah.
If it works to if it belongs to humanity, it's their heritage. Why are people blocking the info being spread, and it's being
So
censored and censored and censored, and of a big link of sites that were in the past, look how many are gone.
So it comes to mind the question, if Yesha's own words are that this is humanity's work, who is doing the censorship in this? And
Well,
Azurite
I
Press
have
is no
a
more?
view on that. I, from inner experience, know that Speaker 3 and her people were responsible for the department of doing the checking the internet and the copyright things. So you had like a mini group of people that was responsible for all of those things and sending it her names and in the name of and in the name of. So now when we are a couple of years further and you see with Speaker 2 and 3 being discontracted and for what reason, how that fits the same control. Even though you have fair use and you have for education, and if you do not tamper with the material and link back to the person, you can legally use it. So copyright in that way is should be no problem, but it's being used as a tool to censor and limit, which in the end damage their own again. Because if you're trying to bring out information and you have 20 people that bring out the information, but of the 20 people, 18 people get blocked. So then how you expect that info to get out? So in that way, yeah, with the Speaker 2 and 3 thing, I simply call it as they made the ancient mistake once again.
Now
And it's that simple.
you're based out of Holland, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Now I have a KS friend I mentioned earlier before we started this the recording here that had shared with me a story about some of the history of KS over there and the Cathara team. And apparently there was a presentation that came along. I think Birgitta. Do you know who Birgitta is?
Yeah, I know her from the Indigo's group who does many good transcript and also back posting to this info and this info and this info.
Okay. So there was, and of course with Cathara team, there was outreach that was happening everywhere. There was presentations that were given everywhere. And there was more kind of an effort, I guess, and there was an organization actually doing this, which says now there is not. So people have kind of taken it in their own hands to do it. But I guess at this time, there was a Cathara presentation, and I don't know exactly what happened, but apparently some people there it was kind of presented in the wrong spirit, and some people uh, were offended by some of the uh, principles in which they were saying it as, I guess, like saying you have to do this. If you don't do that, then you're fallen, or you have this problem. Just kind of dictating how the work was done, type thing. So what happened was they had their own split, and this was before the Big Shield split. And I guess there was like a group of brothers, like two or three brothers, that took upon their own accord to keep the teachings going and present the workshops and everything. But they kind of did their own like living room presentations and just kept everybody informed, because everybody was just way tuned out of this particular presentation that was done. And this isn't the first story that I've heard where people had met with people from the group and they portrayed the teachings in a light, like do or die type stuff. Like if you don't do this, then you're going to fall. And you have this, and even going so far as to telling people what coatings they had, and that they were lined with Anunnaki, and they needed to do this to heal their Anunnaki coats, which I don't.
So basically, it was more about the way they formulated was wrong, and not the message was wrong, and they were too direct. And some people have a problem with people being too direct. They want the smooth, soft way. You have soft love and hard love. So in the soft love, you would be smoothing to say, "Oh, you are of this line, so this implicates that." Yeah, actions will have consequences, and the consequences of your template means you must work so and so and so. That will help you. And the hard way of saying is how they said it, and then they get a problem with how the message was conveyed. Because yeah, of course, nothing is you must. But when you speak in an English language, for example, when you are not native, when you say you must do this if you want so and so and so, then must is like a prerequisite. If you want to attain this, you must do this. Doesn't mean you must, as in by law you must do this and this and this, and otherwise it's wrong. And there also the words get, yeah, you can say one sentence and the person can interpret it into more than a person actually said, and then you get problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it seems to be kind of a reoccurring thing, though, in the group, from people that have shared the story of their introduction from others. And I guess this was back before the Shield split that most of these stories occurred. And they were just they resonated with the mechanics and the work of it, but the presentation was off, of how they would present it, and the kind of fashion that indoctrination type fashion, I guess, that you have to do this, you must, the must word and stuff. So,
Yeah, so
but you haven't heard of that over there?
No, because we've never physically been to a workshop, but like I say, with even at later stages, 2010, 11, 12, more information being available at specific places. So then reviewing all the workshops and doing all the workshops. So basically, I have done all of the 200 techniques and seen all of the 130 workshops and been from A to Z. And in that way, yeah, done everything, experienced everything, so can speak from it.
You've done all of Sliders, all of Flame Body, all of Cathara.
Everything. So in that way, yeah, there may have been problems in the group, but if the other people are working side by side, alongside, parallel to it, we are not affected if here are problems. So that's also security protocol. Because yeah, if everything is in one big group and the one big group goes down, yeah, then there's nothing. That's also security protocol, that you have a secondary group, people running independent, doing their work, and even if one group goes wrong, you still have your backup, and that was exactly what was needed.
Well, this could perhaps be the stealth shield that is mentioned in some of the later Sliders. I believe it's Sliders 12 that she brings up the stealth shield. That was right around when the Alhambra came in, I think, in the K8 factor and everything having to do with the stealth. And this being an invisible group that's not going to be so much in the KS spotlight as far as like the actual workshops, different things, participating in it.
We simply do what we do and what needs to be done, and whether people like it or not like it, or understand or don't understand, or they need Ayasha's confirmation, permission for it or not, or it must be confirmed by somebody else, or then I will say, if you have a good higher self connection, check with your higher self, or check with the Yani, or check with the Yanas, and can they confirm what this person is saying or claiming?
Are you aware of the Skype group that is starting to form in South Korea and the UK? There's
No.
okay. They're starting to meet again, apparently, and there was a big group with the UK Power Amp, is what they called it, and they were doing that like a couple years ago, I guess, when I was doing the SkyPod also, and we would meet up on Skype, and there's actually still over 100 people that are sitting on Skype right now in one window. That we used to do like group text. It wasn't like 100 people at one time, but there'd be a few people in the evenings that would join, and it was a gathering like the group shield type thing, and I had sought permission before to keep running it, and then the court cases came along and all the static and everything. So I was told by Darlene from EASHA to halt and suspend all activities with the SkyPod group. And so I respected that and I did that. And then she said, we'll get back to you after the court cases. Well, Darlene left the group. She's no longer in the group. So I kind of lost my connection to having that authority or the permission to have the authority to actually do it. So it's just been kind of drifting there, and I haven't touched it. I haven't done anything with it. And
Well, for me, is it if the info is already given and being taught to continue it now in the period, you are freely allowed to share and spread that info to others. Because they are continuing, it's not like they are on a stop. No, of course not.
well,
But
that's
yeah,
actually what's
it's a
come up.
different thing. It's a different thing with the ordination things that were going on. And yes, when you have something to the full e-query/UB races, and that relates to the reversed violet plasma, then yes, you must have protocols in place where you make sure that what you are emitting.
The e-query
Because
being the fallen a-query, right?
yeah,
E-query, yeah. Okay.
in the same way, yeah, if person gets compromised because of the shield affiliations it had and the personal coding, yeah, then you are not allowed to broadcast unclean energy into others and passing it on. That's also like in medical science. If you have a clean working room, if your work is not clean, your area will be quarantined because you are spreading the mess. And
Sure.
if you have a laboratory, you have standards. So like, I can bring it back to the contract speaker PDF. There
Yeah.
is one part, one moment, that sprung out for me, where it was, not all members of the EOMC YANA Signet 12 Inner Council hold flame holder or CDT speaker plate positions, but the original 3 flame holders are initially always presented to the Signet 12 Inner Council members. Presently, there are 9 original members of the EOMC YANA Signet 12 Inner Council incarnate on Earth. 1 Eka, 2 Elder Consummates, 1 original gold flame, 1 violet flame, and etc. and etc. That part sprung up to me. So I can here claim, say, and it's for other people to check with their vertical connection or with whatever level they want to confirm, question it. I am one of those original 9. Same way if me took over custodianship of gate 12 Montsegur, you know that gate 1 and 12 were always under the protectorate of the High Council. Always. So if I take over guardianship of gate 12, it implies I have the authority and right in the embodiment who I am in the here and now. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able.
This was before the plasmas, right? Correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Because it was in June 2012 when one person in the past said it like how it felt to her. Yeah, things were, if you have like a bucket of water, things were like about to boil over and poof over. So that was the moment where me had to step in based on the planetary, galactic, and universal and meta-galactic situations.
And
So in that way,
what exactly did you do? Like, what was part of the mission that entailed that you actually did?
just in a feeling that whatever is happening, I don't know, but it's no good, and I need to step in to secure what I need to secure. It doesn't matter if the other people are still gonna mess up things. I will step in here and secure what needs to be secured. So that's when, from following and doing the work, I became in active duty. So in that way, you can trace it back to you have elder consummate, people that embody oversoul, or people from avatar level, or from rishi level, or from indigo type 3 to 1. Well, I am indigo type 1. Not only type 1, but in the, call it simple external version, if you are a wanderer, you got out and you came back. So in this way, I carry the 48 coding and the authority that comes with it on the levels where I came back with, because you bring those potential back all the way here in an 11.5 cut off Milky Way reality. So I remember me asking a couple of people a question back then during the time frame, mid 2012 and 2012, of people that were in the Climatic Science groups and workshops and people's, and I asked, who was the Signet 12 holder before? Like in 2012, 11, 10, who was it? But like sometimes I ask a question and everything will remain silent. Same way with the person behind Ascension Whispers, Pam.
Where did you ask the question at? Indigos?
No, more to specific people in PM if they knew who was, but no, nobody basically knew anything. Or same as.
Did you ask in the e-groups or on Facebook on the Indigos group, or where did you ask the question?
But not in public. More people that also were like very knowledgeable, but it seems not up to this level. Same way I asked the question with the Ascension Whisperers, there was a post about healing Stargate 12. So I also sent, because it was, you have Pam and Tem. So tell me what was the name from Speaker 3 again? Because sometimes I mix up.
Marianne Calloway, Mac.
Oh yeah, Mac. Oh yeah, you have Mac and you have Pam. And I asked Marianne Calloway also the message about Stargate 12 and healing, and so I asked the question, what else could be done more? Because I am so and so linked to Gate 12, so yeah, you were talking about it, well, I am the custodianship about it, so what would you advise to me? But that also remained silent. So then I was like, okay, then I'll post a question, I post to you, I post it on my blog page as a public, and in that way, if anybody wants to answer, they can answer. And in other ways, you would also have done it with the plasma journeys. You made a talisman. You could make an object and activate its plasma body, and the object would also go to medium Earth, so also time travel, and then you have them in both locations, and you can imbue and put your codes into it, and that's your personal talisman. Well, I use my personal talisman with this one. This is my pendulum. So this is my talisman that has the plasma active and activated, and I can ask questions, and that's questions from me to my higher self. And I always begin the first question line with, is the communication line secure? So sometimes it's interesting because at the moment I'm age 32, but I have ECAR level 6 coding 48. So means I am at this point on what is it called again?
Brahma?
No, you have the, now I lost the thing. You have Ekar is the Ekadic, and you have Polaric, that's gold. So
yeah.
I am embodied up to the gold flame primal sound fields, and the last step is to fully embody the Ekar level, which perfect age would be 33. So I have
Right.
like half a year, so I'm doing perfect on time and there's no rush in that way.
Exactly. That's right when I came into my bioregenesis, actually, it was 33. It was like around that age. Yeah, that's a really important age. So how exactly are you aware of these orders and these families and levels and lineages and everything that you are? Because I remember the Bet Jehovah scan, the Bet Jehovah scan,
Mhm.
that had like the DNA template on it. There's like a circle and it had all these lines. And then if you were able to open your vision, then you could kind of trace your DNA to see what order that you're in. So how did you do it? Did you use that particular thing or how?
Most of it, but not completely. Some things were just to confirm what I already knew, and same thing about the plasma level activation and like also about which of your is your family crest. Well, I can use the example. If you would look at your left hand and hold your hand at 45 degrees, like tube angle, do you only have the letter M or do you also have the X in the M? And my guess is you will also have the X in the M, correct?
Yeah, my cousin actually taught me that. He read palms, and he said that there's that he actually mentioned the Melchizedek's also. That there was like a Melchizedek order, like whenever you would attend the clubs or the workshop or whatever, you'd hold up your hand and they could read your lifeline, and see it.
Yeah, so in one post of on my old blog, I blended the three materials together, coming all to the same endpoint. One woman, Barbara Young, uh, she also spoke about the X and the M and that there are not many of them and they are of civilization type 2 and those things. But basically she said, yeah, you have people with an M or the X in the M or the double S or a single straight line, which are the predator psychopaths types. So me blending information together, oh yeah, something she says is correct, the difference between this one and this one. If you, if I in my personal friends and family and peoples, I would say it like 90% of the people has an M. 5% of the people has the X in the M. And the other 5% is people that have maybe total unique random hands or the SS. The double S is not SS like Nazi SS, but more the synth staff is also bended like an SS. And so from those three types, all the people that have the M are from Seraphi Seraphim line. So
Oh
that's the
wow,
majority.
that's interesting. I was even hearing about the pentagram on the hand too.
The few people that have the X in the M, those are of the blue flame. And the people with the SS is the Braharama. But from personal checking, we have not really seen many of those yet. So in that way, I cannot speak. But from the majority of people, it's like most of the M, and only few the X in the M. So that's the big differentiation. And then you can put the family crest from the Petyahuva scan to it, and then you can see, oh yeah, it matches. The difference between the one symbol and the other symbol.
Did you just figure this out yourself, or have you heard
Yeah,
this? As
it's my
wow,
own unique find that I've also been able to test like on specific people or like instantly know, oh, we have such a connection with you already in a way that's more than just I don't know, maybe one past life we knew each other. No, it's bigger. So in that way, oh, then I'm like, oh, I'm 100% sure you will have the X in the M. And then people are like, one person also, he said, what? My hand is 100%, 99.9% the same as you. How is that possible? Because like fingerprints are unique. So people are thinking hands are also unique. So when still, yeah, 85, 90% will have an M, well, that's a majority. So it's not unique. And in that way, yeah, it's yeah, like a personal recognition marker. So in that way, when you said, oh, when they did so and I'm of Melchizedek and only the M, that's still big distortion in the way how I perceive it.
right. What is your take on you remember the Alhambra bonding that we did, the DNA bonding? That seemed to be kind of a controversial type thing that pushed people away, but there was also a lot of activity with the split that was happening. So the Alhambra became kind of a scapegoat of sorts for people to blame and say, oh, here's this big demonic council that's coming in that's shaking everything up for the worse, then that's why the split happened, was this negative council, and that she had lost her line and everything and started channeling wrong information. So what is your take when we did the DNA bonding? Was there anything different that stood out with the Alhambra to you?
I think it's been explained in a way like you have outer domains, middle domains, and inner domains, core domains, internal creation. So we were only working with external mechanics and a little bit into the middle eons. So means in middle eons you also have a template and a path and a journey and your own issues or no issues, and same way even for in internal creation. So depending on the person's own template, they would still need template healing. And if, for example, people have missing parts that cannot be healed because of their template healing and the VECA status, then there's one option: you can accept the host or not accept the host. If you think you can do it on yourself, you are free to do so. Nobody is forcing you, but this is the fail-safe and this is the final go. And if people have a problem with the authority, I think it was somewhere in the workshop that if you have a problem with the authority or blah blah blah, take it up with source. You are dealing with the Cosminias level and the inner core of the core, and there with those you are dealing with. So if you have a problem with that, it's more your inner problem you are having and not with them.
So that brings me kind of to the next question. You mentioned the host. What is your idea of like what that means as far as like being hosted? Because I remember all during Sliders there was, and with each council that comes in, there's a certain hosting effect that's occurred with humanity and with the planet and everything, and certain individuals that carry those codes with the family and with those councils are present usually at these workshops and participating to help bring in the information, from how I understand it also. So when it comes to like hosting, I've heard some people in KS say like, oh, I needed to host my family member, or I'm hosting my friend, or this and that. And of course, during the Shield split, her testimony of what she came forward about the speakers and the new information that she was receiving from the Alhambra, the edited plates, and the guardians telling her to stay with Michael Dean in this abusive relationship because that she needed to host him. So what is your take on that, and have you experienced hosting yourself with
That's also
individuals?
part of actions do have consequences, and if people can karmically resolve, or they fall into the same trap and mentality again. And then even more on a bigger level, the group here represented as a gold flame holder is also a specific group in density 4 level. So on density 4 level, they made the ancient mistake again, and that was the big screw up. So it was bigger than only Michael Dean on 3D level screwing up, doing the same thing again. It was also on the bigger level, the same ancient mistake being made again. And that's why, yeah, it's the crystal river host. It's the river of energetics that provide the opportunity to still get out of this time matrix. So with the drama that going into metagalactic levels of Templars and grids, there you see how big the problem got, where the stairway up was no more viable. Same way as density 2, 3, and 4, the shields are on reversal. So how are you gonna do the step out if you cannot get out no more? Even when you have the tri-matrix, that's why I said the Anshata passages on Aurora platform level 1 had to be closed due to the energetical drain, because it affected even density 1 of Aurora levels. Which means it's not only Milky Way or Andromeda, but it's, yeah, It is from Eka to Akasha level, more.
Right. Okay.
So if
Are you
people had,
talking about after the split when the speaker 2 and 3 shields were synthesized, like the plasma was being synthesized, or is this before? This is probably before.
I think it went a little bit side by side because some things were already ongoing in 2011 period that
Yeah.
blew up in the 2012 period, and that of course had to do with the final showdown. Well, the final showdown is now history. We are
Because there
still
were
here.
some gates, we had all these grid wars and all this push to open up these gates, and this goes back to even the ancient arrow sites and everything, all these, and the Aurora gates. And then after failsafe, all those gates are obsolete. They're shut off. We don't operate with those gates at all. We're opening the cathedrals and the Alhambra gates and all these new sites in Norway and around
Yeah,
the
because
world.
I can use an example like in the old in the Bridgestone project. Bridgestone was Ark of the Covenant and Ark of the Covenant via inner to Universal Vecca. And from Universal Vecca you go into the Eka and Akasha. But if the Universal Vecca shield is on reversed, how are you gonna use that bridge? That's no more viable. So in that way you have to either upgrade, reroute, like if you have a computer and a network and one facet is blocked, you have to upgrade your computer and reroute the flow if you still want to operate it. So I remember the notes from Freedom for Freedom Victory Gruel stand from August 2014. There it was also said that every Q site and Stargate and hubs and Trinity gates, they can all be linked into the cathedral system and run host energy. Same way for this whole Milky Way and even Andromeda. Because of the things that happen to the Shield of Solomon and the individual shields, everything is coded to blue shield, blue-white shield. So then you will have to go through us if you want to deal with it.
That brings up another question that's been coming up in these recent interviews is kind of, I don't want to say stigma because there are mechanics that go into this and it is all laid out for everybody to do the math. But as far as like there being the separation from the blue-white shield and from anybody else, and this also having to do with the human psyche of maybe some not being so prepared to be able to hold that integrity of social adaptability with other people and how to handle that place of authority to hold a blue-white shield and to also not shun and not disrespect people that may or may not be in certain other places of the shield that are falling, and that's kind of been coming up because there is kind of a gap. I noticed a very definite gap of blue-white shield and then the other shields, of course, because there was a split, but there was also a lot of negative things that were happening socially in the group, and psychologically with people that were being shunned and dismissed and just, we don't affiliate with these people anymore. We don't talk to them because they could be infected or they're falling type thing. Have you noticed
Yeah,
any of that? What's
that
your take on it?
that's like if you respect a person, you honor the person no matter what the person is going through in his own struggle. If you can see it, you recognize it. But if you get stuck into fear, and there's only one person who can tell you if you are correct or no correct, then yeah, it's again divide and conquer. Divide and conquer and get people into the victimizer.
What
If
about barriers? What about needing a healthy barrier to know that yourself that you can't associate with this person because you're working on your own integrity. If they come too much in your fields, they could be tampering with your quantum also.
yeah, that's also people need boundaries, and when people don't have boundaries or don't express their boundaries, and people keep crossing your boundary after 10 times, yeah, you get agitated. That's also normal. And yes, same way if a person is very empathic, yeah, it's wait when you walk into a bar with a big group, and then it's like for a normal person, which one of those feelings is mine and which one is not mine. Then you would rather not go in and not be affected by it, and more have your own clear field. So that's also people many times not knowing, what are we up to? Where is it heading? How do we scan? Well, some things are, everything has a frequency signature. Like they cannot imitate me in Dreamtime because me have an original frequency signature. So everything that tries to imitate me will be different frequency. And I've had in Dreamtime with specific people where they were trying to imitate me, but you cannot copy my frequency signature. So there you can differentiate authentic versus fake, where they want to use my personage to play people. So in that way, to bring it back to hosting, for example, in call it personal life, dealing with something that goes back many generations, maybe all the way back to the Kreis period, where a group is being hosted out. And it's an incarnate being hosted out, and the incarnate being hosted out has accepted the Crystal River Ahumbra host, which means also the higher levels of the same being is affected and are aligned. So in that way, you spoke about stealth shield. So now I will throw up for listeners an logical thinker. If with Ashana Dean, she also had problems, correct? In the period from before Peru, after Peru, and in that period with things that were going on, she also engaged her own problems, but eventually resolved those problems. And she finally attained her Rishi level self back as a, how do you call it, like you are being awarded for your hard work. You are regaining your Rishi level self back. So don't you think that in the time everything that was going on, and when it was of vital essence that, call it blue flame, remained intact, because if blue flame would have fallen, that it would have meant there is no exit out of this Milky Way.
Yeah.
So in that time period, yes, there is stealth shield. That is the core of the whole shield that took that responsibility over. And outside of the stealth shield, Ashana Dean is doing her work in her group, in her shield, but she is not the core host of stealth shield because of her own actions and consequences based on the three groups inside of the Solomon shield.
Have you noticed much of this, the people, kind of the haves and the have-nots, people that are on the blue-white shield that are holding the host, and then this big gap of people that are, kind of on the other side of the fence, so to speak, type thing? Have you noticed that much in the group, or have you interacted that much in the chaos groups?
Yeah, I see it a little bit, but in general, I tend to more observe more and do my work in the background. I work better in the background and simply doing it than trying to explain everything to all people just for their validation or confirmation. Sometimes it helps to exchange with people to validate something, or what do you think about this and this, and then you get the info back, oh yeah, I was also thinking the same thing, so I was correct. And in the same way it's being taught. It's the same as call it dimensional creation, like from D13 you create D12. So from D12, D11 and 10 are created. So those D11 and 12 coding come out of the blue. So in the same way it's told, blue-white core shield also holds the fragments of the violet shield and the gold shield. So in that way, because that is the same principle. So people are still free to choose what they want. If they or their higher levels in density 4 or Rishi level think they could do it differently, they are free to do so. Nobody is stopping them. But when you take a look at the situations and you realize what consequences it has, then you also understand why things are as they now are, and how Kale Dema and Kale Rana paths are still viable. Like in one comment one time, I reminded Paul Terriold, reminded that he said, oh yeah, I already forgot that, about that Milky Way is now, for the future, under White Dragon, Christic, Sovereign, White, Sovereign, Christic, full path, White Dragon hosted.
Right.
They are on step back path.
That's a big part. That's a big change that's happened with it. Yeah.
That will also mean that in the matrix they are overseeing in this galaxy, there will be more order, because in past also people, they had big problems with white dragons in past. I think you will also know from workshops like, they were also at specific times a problem, or at other times it was the Metatronic group that was a problem, or wherever you are active you will have opposition. Yeah, because Titans is white dragons. And
that's how we had to do the Tauran activation cycle and everything, Tauran light seed and everything because of that. So it's like we learned the parts of the anatomy that we were pushed to learn by the white dragons, that we needed to activate at that time to get through that, to bring in just enough frequency to kind of get past that for the grids and for the gates to open and this and that.
Yeah, so you remember me saying that there was much changed from, say, end 2012, after 2112, 2012, all the way up to now. I don't know if you read my post from last year, December, about the Emerald Guardians Perspective Status Update Earth.
I haven't read them yet. I need to go to your site and read all of your posts. I've been busy with the interviews, like editing and posting them, but I need to check your site, your Facebook group, Emerald Guardians. Yeah.
And in that one, I also address things, and also things that I've personally done. So if I would open one thing, it's really simple to find normally, because I also made like a diagram, not a diagram, but simply a graphical of, you have these groups and these groups and these groups. Like TM is for Templar Melchizedek. Let's scroll all the way down. Like I made a flowchart of opposition and who works with who. So you have Anu Elohim, you have Templar Melchizedek, you have Belial, you have Ashtar, Galactic Federation, MIPS and Romi, Luciferians, Totians, Zeta, Red Dragon, and Black Sun and Jehovians. So then you have all of the groups. So I made a flowchart with all this and who works with who, to get an overview.
That would be nice to actually see, because there's so many different affiliations, and they kind of are summed up with green dragons, red dragons, white dragons, everything.
Check one thing so I can see what I'm doing.
Wow. Okay. Seeing like a whole chart here. That's kind of blurry. I can't see that.
Like here it will say.
What does that say?
Anu Elohim, one is in orange and 3 parts are in black, which means one group is no problem, and if there are 4 groups, 3 groups are still problem. So in that way, being like very, very mathematical, 25% is 1/4.
And this is all in alignment with the teachings and what she's shared with us as far as what these groups are doing, if they're with us or what they're doing.
Yeah, or who is working with who and who is not working with who.
Wow.
So from this one, like this one is from 19 December 2014, version 1, overview groups and relationships. So blue lines are the ones who are working together. So you will see, this one does work with this one, but this one don't work with this one. So then you can little bit differentiate.
You could develop some really good strategies of what they're doing, and like through time also, you have them dated.
So this one is like flowchart 2. It's changed. It's after 21 December. And this one is Templar group. This one is Red Dragon, and this one is Totium.
I see RD.
So the Totium group and the Templar group, they were the first one as a complete collective to accept the host. So in that way, the orange lines is the ones who they are trying to assist. So the blue lines are the opposition who works together, and the orange lines is who are the accepted Alhambra host collectives, who are they trying to help. So this one is a little bit simpler. This one is version 2 after 21 December. So that's a whole lot clearer into what is left. So here I made a hierarchy. On top you have Anu Elohim, then Ashtar and Jehovians, then Templar Melchizedek group, then Andromes, then Galactic Federation, and then Zeta. That's hierarchy. So after changes, which I will explain in a little bit, this is what is left. 3/4 Anu Elohim, 3/4 Templar, 3/4 Jehovians, complete Ashtar, complete Galactic Crab Federation, as I always call them. You have the Andromes, MIPS, and the Zetas.
What
So,
federation did you say?
Galactic Federation of Crab, I always say.
Kappa?
Crab.
What is Cap?
CRAP.
Oh, crap. Crap. That's good. Good one.
Dus wel zoom even normaal. So here it says 3/4. 3/4, 3/4 means 1 out of the 4 groups did accept thus far, and this is still the leftover. So here it says 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, and half, which is like a big changer if you have 1 group out of the 4 accepted or 3 out of the 4.
You can also base this on stories of abductions, like how frequent the abductions are going, how many more stories are occurring, to how much are working with us now. That's interesting.
So this one is from status after 30 December. At that point, you have the full collective of Belial, Black Sun, Luciferian, Templar, Thotians, Jehovians. Oh no, Thotians, these ones are fully 100%, 4 out of 4 accepted, which is 100% collective. At that point, Jehovian, 75%, Anu Elohim, 75%, means 1 problem group left, 1 problem group left, Templar Melchizedek, 75%, 1 problem group left, Zeta, 50%, which is 2 out of 4, which is the ZRZT, which is the Civilian Religion Zeta.
Now, are these ones yours, or are these all based off of the workshops?
This is for me. This is
how are you getting your information from
because this goes direct hand in hand with what I call RMT, Reclamation Mission Team. So if you have like Tibet, and Tibet has presence of specific groups, and that area will be reclaimed, secured, and restored, and the groups that are present will be given the opportunity of choice. So then you directly interact with those groups, and if you are the messenger and the one that gives them the host option, you are the personal liaison. So in that way, yeah, so at that point, these ones accepted, these ones not yet. Ashtar was back then 100%.
So you're talking about Tibet? You directly interact with groups in Tibet? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, in a little bit I'll show you the Templar list, because yeah, they go like hand in hand. So here, the not accepted list, which would be still the problem opposition, however you look at it. Ashtar was still 4 out of 4, 100%. Galactic Federation of Light, GOFL, 100% still 4/4 problem, and Romy still 100% problem. And Jehovian, 25, 1/4 group left. Anu Elohim, 1/4 group left. Templar Melchizedek, 1/4 group left. And Zeta, 2/4, the Regilian Zeta. Because you have 2 different types, the Zephylim Regilian Zeta and the normal Regilian Zeta.
But the Black Sun and these ones on the left are the big ones.
Also,
so the ones on the right are just kind of slow going to catch up, it seems like.
And yeah, it's the difference in...
Those are smaller factions. Galactic Federation is a smaller faction.
Also. But at the same time, that's why I used this one in the hierarchy. What is hierarchy? Anu Elohim is top in hierarchy. So they are the top dogs, and the Zeta and the Galactic Federations are the low dogs.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is the change after...
So the heads of these guys have already accepted everything. It's trickling down to the bottom. I've kind of noticed that in politics and some of the news and stuff.
So on this one, after 21 February 2015, Ashtar is now on the accepted list, which was after a mission in Brua Nohassa. So then you still have Galactic Federation and Romy still 100% not accepted. Jehovah's was still 1/4, Anu Elohim still 1/4, Templar, Melchizedek still 1/4.
The Zetas are always going to be the last ones to stop probably the abductions and everything, I guess.
Yeah, so then I made for the people that's reading, what does all those letters means? Because for people like us, it's easy. AE is Anu Elohim, DS is Black Sun, TM, Totians, and Romies, Necromitron and Romy, Red Dragon, and all of those things.
This is really interesting. So all this can be found on your files section of Emerald Guardians group on Facebook?
This is a
Or is this
post
personal?
this is post on the website blog. So this has been online. This is posted for January last year.
What is your website blog? Where's that at?
emeraldguardians.nl.au.org.
Okay. .nl, did you say?
Yeah, .nl.au.org.
I'll link it in the interview in the about section. That's interesting. And it hasn't been taken down, and you've been posting everything, and that's really good.
Yeah, and it has my Akashara on top. Well, here one there. Even this one was 2 times claimed copyright.
Yeah. I can see that. I've been seeing this around, actually. So you did this?
Yeah, this is my original hand creation. That finally, after 1.5 years from small version, I put it into the big version and 100% how it's supposed to be. Yeah, because in this one I also address a problem with the Great White Lion. So I talk about it, I point it out, I use the pictures, I have secure hosting for the images.
We were discussing this before we started recording. Do you mind going over the lion APN here?
Yeah, I can maybe read out the begin part.
Just a little bit, because they can go to your site and see all this too.
This is of course from the APN manual.
From Voyagers too, in the back, the APNs, yeah.
Like here I was saying, I will only read the first paragraph and then the rest can people read. So I write this so. I don't post or write that much, talkie wise. It's rare nowadays. So now is a good occasion to write and show an angle of perception onto things. A now time status update of Aurora Earth. So let's begin with the Great White Lion APN. So that's online, but not yet fully secure. For that, me goes back to a note from AB and Robatis with a backup link, because one of the videos was no more available, but somebody had a copy of the recording. So I say the grid is still kind of booby-trapped. And Puma Pumku, which is here, was where it was drained, descension of its energetics at one specific date. It was stolen, it was done by a specific group, with 2 ships. See also a reference here, where I backlink to an older post. And with the info that was given to me, to then use that collective energy to try to put up a block on the North and South Pole atmospheric layers insertion. And that was regarding a question regarding the Heart of the Lion, Stargate 12 area, and the Lion APN itself. Regarding the grid was my question, and regarding the triple seal, I said. So on this post, I also show the geographical locations. This ones people will also know. From the 3 Atlantean island nations, 50,000 to 28,000 BC. So here I say, Brua, secure. Main Alpha Omega base at Bahamas is not active. That's from the material. Nohassa was not secure. In the past, you had the Galactic Federation, Ashtar, Andromedas and MIPS present in this area, Nohassa. 2014 February, secured. These groups have been evicted. Means like when you evict somebody out of a house, you move them out of the house and the house is again reclaimed. And the only group that accepted the host was Ashtar. Accepted Alhambra Crystal Rift Rose. The rest they were simply evicted from the area. So I make a list of Bali, Sarasota, Peru. Same way, other example, Australia, Arc Gate, Q-Site 6, India, Stargate 6, Moscow. Stargate 6 secure, Australia. The group that has accepted that was present there is 1/4 of the Anu Elohim. And that group, BW stands for Black Wolf, has accepted the newer oversight. Or that's Gate 6, sorry. So A6 is still not secure. Q6 is secure. So I go literally through the whole list of places and when changes happened. Checking one thing. No, I need to show one thing. Even kijken. Oh. Because then you see the understanding of where the 1/4 of this group and the 1/4 of this group goes with.
Right.
I think this picture was from Ash Grimshaw and you. With the... Well, now it's loading slow.
Ash Grimshaw and what?
Let me see. I have it back.
Okay.
What is it? Oh, yeah, you, Chris, see? The list was made by William Hung, rest in peace, December 2012. Images by Anuhaji Owl and Chris. Update status and Q sites added by Emerald Guardians, RMT. Next update will also include the 12 ARC locations in progress. And second note, all main 12 Stargates and Q sites are still on lockdown.
Who was the second person? Ash Grimshaw and who?
Anuhaji Owl is Ash Grimshaw.
Oh, just Ash Grimshaw.
So, because these pictures came from a PDF that somebody compiled.
Okay.
So I think you did the pictures.
Who?
You.
Me? I don't know anything about this. Seriously.
It was named...
Does it have my name on it?
In one moment, and
I made a video of the Araya's prayer where I was singing, and I used pictures like from Bali and the different new gates, but I haven't participated in anything on the website of posting.
Yeah, I think it was called... It was the Amenti Stargate and Planetary Arc of the Covenant Hub Gates and Q-Site Locations list PDF. And those pictures I used to illustrate it here. Like this,
Wow.
like this picture of Stonehenge came from that PDF in Easter Island.
Okay.
So I'll use one as example.
I'll have to check with them and see.
Stargate 1, South Pole, connects with Universal, etc. Currently on the High Council Emerald Guard Protectorate. X mean before. Oh. X, the previous controlling faction, was Necromitron, Andromi MIP, Draconian Dracos, Omicron, and Regilian. So Cyprus, secure on the High Council Emerald Guard Protectorate. It was March 2015. So another example would be... What is a good example? Stargate 5, Machu Picchu. In the past, it was Pleiadian Samyas Luciferian Anunnaki who was controlling it. Rome, Italy was secured 31 December 2015, and that made a complete round circle with a full secure Templar in relationship to 12 gates and 12 Q sites.
Now, is this a consensus type project where you're working with other people and you kind of get a consensus over these dates and everything? Or is some of this intermingled with the current work of what she's been saying also, or is this just all you?
It's me and a very select group of people. Like, You can put the core people on 5 people or 6 people, then you have already enough people to make a difference. You don't need 100 people if you have 5 people that are here for that specific mission. So that has to do with reclamation, reclaiming, restoring, cleaning, and reactivating. And the part, there was a website, marahari.org, which is currently also down. It was from somebody called Patricia. She also been to many workshops. This is a transcript from the Freedom for Freedom, August 2014. Here it says, coming full circle in the entire Christic something host failsafe mission and filling in some of the pieces that are missing. And what's very special about the ability of the Manticates and the Q zones and the Q sites and all of those things is to be able to interface into the cathedral network in order to pick up the host. It also means that a good percentage of the violet and green shields that had gone in reverse will actually, part of their quantum will go back around into the host organically. So that's an option for people that are stuck in that reversal. So what with the opposition list and which groups were in the recent past a problem and now have accepted the host means they are taken out of the equation and not a problem no more. So that makes the sum you are dealing with way more easier. That also has directly to do with interacting with places like Tibet, with South Africa, Johannesburg, all of those key grid locations where you have key groups present. And then dealing with them and giving them the opportunity. And they can accept or not accept, but we will reclaim the place whatever way we need to. If they want war with us, we will take an energy stand, but we are not the people you want to make a war with. Because it's also for us, in the past we were limited. It's like we had hand gloves on and we had to be careful. Some things were non-intervention, some things were allowing things. Now the hand gloves are off. Means can do more. Means also will do more. And we are not looking for fights, but if people by that choice are making themselves opposite of enemy and attacking us, we will defend. And what is said about people with K8 coding, like example in the extreme case of example with Fatal E? In the workshop they said it, they call people with K8 coding Christ assassins. Because if a Fatal E would energetically attack a K8 person, that energy would bounce off in opposite spin they are sending it, and they would get the full energy blast back at that, and it would poof them out.
That's been explained. Like she's really very distinct on how she explains that. If they're ever attacked, that it will be bounced back. Threshold.
If you are directly attacked from that level of the being, you can still be attacked from lower level and still be, depending on who you are dealing with, still be affected. But in that way, they wouldn't go directly after me because it would be deadly for them. So then it's easier to target people around you than directly go after you.
That kind of brings me to the next question. How have you been, because for me in my life with KS, it's been a process. You have this extensive work that you've kind of contributed in some ways, and you're working with these people and you're kind of expanding on these areas of the work, which I think is fascinating. But has this been a steady thread through your life, or has KS kind of come and gone? Because for me personally, it's been like, I have to have a time to integrate all the techniques and all the self-healing and everything, and I go out in 3D, and I really don't do text for a while. I don't do prayers sometimes for months, and there's like an integration process in densities or something that's happening, and then I come back and it's just like full throttle on, and I'm just like pulling in plasmas and catching up and doing everything. How has it been for you as far as that, and how are you able to integrate all this in 3D and have a normal 3D life, I guess, also?
It's like to work with all of those many places. Like maybe we'll do a follow-up interview maybe next month when you see the Aurora post and the status of the Templar, and then link those two things together, and then I look back now over the last 2.5 years, and I can understand the changes and the continuation of it and how it affects where we are now.
Like through the news, the politics, the current events of.
Also, but that's more, yeah, call it like it's external of your hologram, and if it doesn't affect your surrounding directly, and you cannot affect it directly, yeah, you can emotionally react to it or not be really touched as much by it. Same way with the France bombing, people can go crazy about it and feed all of that energy into it, or be a little bit more detached, engaged, and observe and see how things play, and not be dragged into dramas or feeding the same control mechanism.
But how are you able to like hold all this? And I mean, do you go out that much? Do you have a job? Like, are you socially?
No, at the moment, no.
Are you just like
The
at home,
last,
just like fully in
yeah,
this? Okay,
yeah,
I gotcha.
and
I
but
gotcha.
but some things are also same as you. Or sometimes me, long time don't do this or don't do this, simply because of the busyness and other things to do. And like, if you know your own energy, you know when you're up to power or not to power. And if you're already also in dream time doing much work and also working much with plasma, same way your Trua body will go on missions, and sometimes you will operate your Trua body, and sometimes your Trua body will do things and come back and reblend and reunion, and then you are also re-anchoring those same energies, even though you have not consciously physically done it yourself in that moment. It will still give that energy back in your essence of body.
Right, right. Yeah, because you recently had a daughter, and now you have there's like a whole nother life to take care of, and this whole world that you're about to enter into with your daughter. I have two daughters and two sons, so I've been through it. So I mean, it's like a lifestyle change that's about to happen for you. So
Yeah.
do you see yourself uh, kind of going back out again, or do you feel like you're going to be able to integrate all this at the same time and continue it?
Like, sometimes in last year, many of the, call it, reclamation missions went sometimes side by side when workshops were, because in workshop time is specific reason for that specific timing. It means you have the whole group energy. So when is the best time to do something? When you are in full group and power, even though they are running that group, you have the stealth group, and the stealth group will do what they need to do. They don't need them specifically for it, but it helps when you have the full energy present as support. And that's the way. Remember the picture I sent to you the day before yesterday, with the many lines and the Google map with the Templar symbol and the cube and the bigger and the bigger and the
Yes,
bigger.
yes,
That one had to do with one specific, call it, yeah, how would you name it? One specific grid installation that goes together with the cathedral grid, and you have a primary layer of places that have functions. You have a secondary layer with secondary support roles. You have a trinary layer. You have 3 layers of places that all interlink into the same grid. So with each of those reclamation missions, those places were also hooked into the cathedral grid, running the host energy. So as more gets reclaimed, the more gets reconnected, the more will in the host, the more it will affect the whole grid, the whole APIN. And in that way, some things is I was already working with that Jaradin was not even yet learning about,
yeah. I've
and
heard
now
that. I've heard that
going
from
into.
Censorship. Yeah.
And in that way, yes, there is a stealth shield. Most of them you will not see on any web poster. They will simply do what they need to do without being distracted. Because there's also many people are distracted. They get distracted from one thing into the other thing. They lose their own focus. And people that need to do what they need to do, they simply do what they need to do. So yeah, so December was finished with securing Vatican, which is Q-side, which was like the biggest stumble block of all of the places. that's like the last thing you do because that's the biggest thing. So that made a full complete Templar secure. All 12 gates, all 12 queue sites. Well, from my recollection, I don't think in the last 200,000 years that was the case. Because you also have a big knowledge about the history and little things. Can you remember a recent time where there was a full complete Templar secure?
No, it's always been a consistent battle between the grids back and forth, the quantum of the dragons, and what part of the shields that they're holding, of the Earth shields.
Yeah. Because some things go back to, what is it, 208,000 years ago with the fall of Brunel, and then you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 failed stellar activation cycles, and everything that happened in between, because there's of course a big history. Like for people, it's already too difficult to understand 2,000 years of history, let alone 200,000.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and even being pushed to evac. What was your me and Stefan had a talk the other night that I just posted about evac and how he said that he was never part of that mission when they were doing evac, that he would never have left the planet and that he would have stayed here. So what is your take on evac when we were going through that during sliders?
Well, evac means you want to get specific people out that cannot get out, and if you have people like me, we are the ones that remain last and keep the door open because we can use our inner gauge and puff out. So depending on which role you have in this game we are playing, you also have people that hold open the door. It's like the captain of the ship is the last one to go off the ship. He makes sure that all of the passengers are able to get out, and once the ship is empty, then the captain leaves the ship.
So you don't have any notion of there being like, because he was saying that there's the humans here are still like kind of the guardians here. I know it goes a lot more extensive in that in the study, but he's saying there. I mean, you wouldn't leave the planet if you were a part of it. You would never leave it. You kind of go down with the ship. And
well, that's also own choice of if there are 3 paths and they are still viable. Each person and being has their own choice which paths they choose, and respect for any path of any being, anyway, either way.
the shift and the sift that's happening, I guess. The coding's being stretched.
In the same way, it's also with Lisa René energetic synthesis.
Yeah.
With the bifurcation of time and the separation of densities. Same way now the host runs down via Aquinos into M31, into Metagalactic 8, into down and down and down. You know the host line, the river, the down step. So in the same way, the host runs in density 2, in density 3. So you will also have a dimensional blend of all of those, and eventually you will have a separation of densities. And after separation of densities is when paths are like in phase lock. Like once you are on after separation of densities, you cannot go back to this part because that's already gone. That's the progression of time and choice also, because choices do have consequences.
Right. What is your take on there being other groups or religions that are participating in the Crystal River mission? Do you think that there are other groups that the contracts are mentioned of mending, bending, and blending, and there being like sleeping contracts where people won't wake up, but they're still part of the contract and they're still fulfilling their role, even though their DNA is not going to wake up. What is your take on that? Do you think that there are outside groups that are maybe more efficient than the KS group itself?
There will be some persons who are also Emerald Order incarnate here present, but did not awaken, means they could not awaken or were compromised or something happened to that led them away from where they were supposed to. Then simply their higher level will do what the person down here is unable to do. So in the same way, when the host is available on density 2 and 3, if person is unable to get to oversoul integration, then the oversoul will come into here, or from there do what needs to be done and pull out.
So I guess for groups it would be the same way. Like you could have people in the Catholic religion that are really asleep, but there could be like a priest that's actually assisting in the religion to try to raise up the frequency or something in
Yeah,
that faction.
and with the difference about the old host and how long it was, 223 years, now there's 900 years. So that's like 4 times longer potential and progressive upshifts. And like some beings will not incarnate back onto this planet. This frequency simply will not be in power no more. So they will migrate to some alignment with their own frequency and continue their path there.
It's
It
kind of
will
what's
be
happening
gradual.
right now. Everybody's going to these systems that they resonate better with, these fallen systems, and kind of sifting off the planet. Which brings me to the next question. Are you actually seeing signs of Earth being translocated from the galaxy into the new system, like with the new time waves and the future time waves? Are you experiencing that yourself?
Mm,
Because that is the new teachings, is that like you said, the Milky Way, the Procyon system has fallen and everything. So it's not the solar system; it's only Earth. Earth is the only thing that's carrying the fail-safe codes to be able to go on to median Earth, where is the version of Earth that didn't fall. Is my understanding of it. So there's kind of a translocation that's happening right now with the planet outside of the Milky Way system. And I know there's 900 years for that to progress, but how do
yeah,
you?
and some things will only happen after 200 years when you have 1/3 of the quantum that already can transmute its form. So
Way
yeah,
it's way early yet. Yeah.
yeah, of course, it's like in that way. Don't expect all of a sudden the planet to shift and no more Milky Way. No, because then you are being unrealistic based on the project timeline frames and where what will go based on the same core mechanics. But it's still a person's own thing, what he can attain or not attain, or will incarnate back on Earth, or already has the coding and the presence and the energy to go into medium Earth or Eartha or even higher. Same way, oh yeah, I bring it back to the downstep of the Crystal River host. You know about security protocols. So security protocols made sure that where we are now was still attainable. Some things already was in the crisis period and period before when things were put into action. It even goes all the way back, I think, 900,000 to 100,000 years ago with the drug invasion, where also things were put into the planet already knowing, looking forward, that will be needed. It's like planting the seeds that you will later need to grow your garden. So now we have the garden because it was seeded back in time. Same as Janine was saying, the plasma gates were already there 2000 years ago, 5000 years ago, but you needed the plasma coding to access the plasma gates. The plasma gates are even higher than D12 coding. And even to access D12 gate, you need your full template, otherwise you vaporize yourself into nothingness. Same way as gate 6 requires 6 strands DNA active. And
Right.
Trinity gates were the lowest ones, which required 3.5. And Trinity gates could be connected into hub gates, and hub gates connect into the bigger.
Like a big downstep process where
Yeah.
everybody has access to it. Yeah. How has it been for you, like when you do techniques or you're doing the next activation and the purging cycle with karma in your life? Has it been hands-on experiential for me? Because I relate it to being almost radioactive at times whenever I go back into it. It's almost like I'm shaking up a hornet's nest of karma and different things that kind of play out, my DNA projects, and then I'm able to process that karma and stuff. How's it been for you with techniques?
For me, it's been way more restful in that way, a way more smooth scene. It's been, well, sometimes maybe a little bit hectic, but in general, maybe easier than for others. But that also relates to my own personal template. And same way I made here like a big notebook with questions that I use my pendulum with my HS Rishi self talk and get confirmation on about specific things. So with me being an indigo type 1, Eckhart, but I'm one level before embodying the Eckhart level, means I'm Risha. So it's a Risha talking to Rishi. You have an embodied Risha that's becoming an Eckhart talking to the Rishi level.
Okay. Yeah.
So in that way, yeah, you have a part out there, but the part I'm already embodied is even higher. So some things, yeah, but it still is the communication flow that you can get confirmation where you sometimes maybe from your personal level not sure about or not trusting yourself enough to know is it or is it not, and in that way still looking for a little bit confirmation.
So I guess in that sense, there was no biggest technique that stood up in mind that uh, was like, this is the biggest technique that I would do or suggest or anything, because you have all these different facets of yourself that you're healing. So for those other levels of anatomy, those were the big techniques, and they all apply in different areas. So there's probably nothing that stands out more than the other as far as healing, unless you had problems that were more severe in different areas, of course.
Yeah, and for many things, it's still the basic things is still to work progressively. If you already have the
Maharic shield.
plasma levels active, and it's like what I said in the beginning. It's not, oh, we have plasma active and we do a couple of once a week or once a month a little plasma and I can sit on my ass and everything will happen on itself. No, it will help if you co-consciously co-create on the external level also and doing that work.
Sure. Yeah. How has chaos affected your social life, your friends and family? Do you have people in your local environment that you are able to participate with, or is it all online?
Some people can understand a little bit, some people it's all out there and oh, I don't believe. So that's their own personal belief system and level of awareness they are on. And others are interested and others, oh, now I read this and this and this, and I had a big history knowledge already, but now it shows me why some things didn't make sense. So it's more about same. It's the question the person asks that decides what kind of answer will be given. So based on the person is what kind of interaction you get. So same way when you give people puzzle parts, it's for them to connect, for them to look deeper into, for them to on their own step by step choosing to want to know more. And when you know some things are possible to do for your own self, then it's still self-responsibility. Because yeah, nobody is forcing anybody.
Have you experienced much of this? Has kind of come up lately, the notion of divine intervention with interactions of people, where things just kind of connect at that specific time, and there's no other way to explain it, but there was some kind of alignment of spirit that occurred with that individual, and you were able to present this, or you were able to offer your services. Has that come up that much lately, to where something
Yeah,
just kind of clicked in the alignments? I've been noticing
like
so.
like one person from my Facebook, Pablo. I know him now a couple of years, and he also via my blog found me, and he is also like soul family and connected in things. I also found another person that lives currently in England, originally Russian. Um, do you from head remember the India Ketradon workshop?
The India, which one? Which
The
year?
India Ketradon.
Yes. Yeah.
That one also went into the fall of Gaia in the Raja L,
Okay. All right.
the Raja L Azurites that were in shield, fully on the planet, fully in group shield when they were attacked in the most, how do you call it? When you're in the most vulnerable positions when they were attacked. When full Raja L Azurite Guardians running the planetary shield of Gaia in that state, in group shield formation being attacked. Well, one of the persons in England was also there, was one of those people, like me was one of those peoples. So in own way of also back checking, fact checking, I made here like a list.
You had memories of it, just vivid visions and memories,
No,
cellular memory, or
we have like the biggest blackout you can have. My girlfriend has more memory and things, but some things are for me still not yet time to fully remember things until it's the correct timing for it. And some things are also not needed. If I'm like here now to complete all missions, all submissions of all other incarnations ever happened, it doesn't matter what they did back then, there, and so. I'm here now to complete, finish all of it. So it's same. You are the
Heroic
heroic
self.
self. Yeah.
Heroic, yeah.
Yeah. So you have 12 incarnates probabilities, and you also have 12 transcendental incarnates, different body, different parent, different part of the planet. So you have 12 and 12, and of all of those 12, you are the person pointer in space-time and all factors. So in that way, for me, oh yeah, you will also remember the May 2012 audio that was released with more info about the Christmas story, where it was also told about J12 and those that they themselves and on a higher level, like erase, not erase, hide the past, hide the, yeah, it's like you go stealth, or you have a road and you put dust over the road. When there's dust over the road, you cannot trace back steps. So now it's time to remove the dust from a long kept hidden road, and that's the part of self-remembering, self-embodying.
Right. Like it's gotten a lot more personal now, self-healing.
Yeah, and that's also yeah, with the Tantriya and the sub-councils. You have one sub-council for gatewalking and so specialties. The other one is self-healing. The other one is so and so. My personal helper was from the self-healing subgroup. So that also implies, yeah, that's what the most is about. Besides the other things I do, the other key focus point is self-healing. So with my own, like I said, if you have gate 1 and gate 12, those were always under High Council, Emerald Order, Protectorate, always. So I am the custodianship of gate 12, means I am one of those. So in all of those upstep levels, I, via my Rishi level self, confirmed. Do I represent Ra Confederacy? Yes. Azurite Council? Yes. IAFW? Yes. Tantriya Councils? Yes. And thus also the AMCC? Yes. Same way as specific people, specific coding, downstep via specific line. So you downstep via the D12 Elohai Elohim line. You downstep via all of those places. So when you have a part of yourself in those places and you have embodied all the way up to Risha, Vajrayana's gold polaric level, to have those energy of those core groups you represent. So when you represent, you have the authority of those levels because you embody it and you emit it because you are. And in that way, I would put up the question to somebody that's listening. Oh, if you have a good higher self connection level, throw the question up. Or if you can connect to the Elohai or the Eyani or the Mashianas or the Al-Humra Council, throw up the question and then you will get the answer and then you will know.
Well, I'll be honest with you. For me, it's been very difficult in discerning the difference between because I mean, we're taught with the early teachings about phenomenon, and the whole New Age scene is basically obsessed with any type of phenomenon that occurs, and they're not up for discerning whether it's negative or positive phenomenon. And I find myself sometimes kind of stuck with that in the sense that whenever I do have a journey or I do have an out-of-body experience, I'm not particularly sure exactly what level of anatomy it occurred on. I'm not able to discern that. I think there's probably other people that would be interested to know also, like, how are you able to discern like these different levels of your anatomy to say like this is the Rishi or the Rashale body, or this is the plasma body, or this is the astral body, all these different parts. How have you been able to discern that so clearly?
Because me also have gone through the progressive upstep from light body to spirit body
You
to Rasha
familiarize
body
yourself with each level of anatomy. Okay.
to luminary body to all the way. And same way I remember one older technique was where you took your inner child in hand and then up through the densities. Where you in each density look around a little bit, you can interact, but just focus and keep moving up and up and up till you get all the way up in the 12 point with the stone table and you sit down. Do you remember that one? That was for inner child healing.
When was this?
I can't even remember
The
which one
old.
of
It was
where
like
it
a real
was.
old one.
Yeah, there was real basic one, real simple, but real powerful. And that's where you connect it through your D12 and then sit with your inner child at the table and with your D12 avatar there present. And then even go beyond where you are like this big and your big body is like this big. So you are back as one part of your consciousness in the bigger consciousness group you are. So in that way, all the way connect back and then.
So as far as like the families too, I guess they each carry an encryption. Like whenever you mention like these different families, like the Yanni and the Alhambra. So whenever they come in, you're able to discern because you've already made a connection with yourself on those levels of anatomy as to where they're coming in from.
Yeah.
Because
Same
really
way
all
as because everything still has frequency signature, and it's also when you get familiar with something, you recognize it easier. Because no, not every for me also it's not like I can read your energy signature, I can read your energy signature. No, but it's yes, I can sense differences and I can feel. Same way as I can feel from a person more than the person knows about himself. So because you read or me read the full person
Yeah.
body template, not aura layers.
I have experienced some of this actually when some of my story was that I was on a Kundalini path and I didn't have the Mark shield back then. I didn't have any type of support. I didn't have any guidance in it. So I did land myself in a mental hospital. That was partly due to that from the Kundalini experience. But after that, I was kind of in this wandering phase of the mental planes or astral realm or different things, but I wasn't communicating in the physical sense, like with words and things. But there was another communication that was happening because I'd opened up these other parts of my anatomy. Even though I didn't understand it at the time, there was still this level of communication, and there was so much communication on these other levels that it hindered my communication down here in the incarnate self. So I had to kind of restructure the whole anatomy system, or like how to communicate and formulate and put words together down here to kind of heal myself in that sense here.
Yeah, I remember from 11/11/2012, Andrew Bartsis, the galactic historian, who was also some good info, and he knows me personally, or like he says, I know the human meat saw a suit DNA template body of the person. So in that way, he knows some things about me that I don't know, but still he knows that. Yeah, he knows who I am, so he
Oh yeah,
knows who I am.
yeah,
So
I
B also
believe
said,
that.
in dream time is that what you are communicating with, it's such high level of energy that's very difficult to sometimes comprehend or even bring back. Because yes, if you are like out there, it's more easier to see all in the one moment. But if you then put it down back in body, you miss that all knowing in the one moment and still try to understand. Because yes, it's like you try to bring a battery of 100 million volt back into Earth, which only can handle 100 volts. So you will either overload the battery, or you have to take little parts of it every time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Or yeah, indeed, it's brain overload. Because some info, when you talk to like a friend, and you go to material and explaining, and after a long evening, they need sleep because they need to digest the information in their
yeah.
own time. And then 1 week later, he will come back to it like, so and so and so and so. Because it's also said that some depending on which manuals, workshops, info. Some info has high frequency level of information, so you need to be at that level to understand. So if it's like oversoul level, but level of information, but person only has some integration, then yes, there's a mismatch between the frequency of the information and the person of his consciousness and awareness, what he can understand. And it's simply out of his league at this moment. It's beyond his comprehension.
Fall asleep, just like pass out. Like,
Also,
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
like my girlfriend, she has also very good inner vision, better than me. And yesterday she did the Azurite Waters RK12 corridor journey.
That's an old one too.
And there's also a very
Healing
powerful,
waters.
yeah. Like sometimes you need also to go back to the key things that have the most impact and also direct interaction. And it's still, it is same with the plasma journeys and your personal helper. If you don't ask for help, or if you don't ask for anything, they cannot do anything. If you think, oh, it's all okay, so okay, then they won't assist because you are not asking for it. And it's still free will. Nobody is forcing anything onto anybody. And person have their own helper and their own specialities where they are focusing on. So that goes back to the Adashi and Adashi Adept and Adashi Master. So you have films that come back with the coding. If you come back with the coding, you also have the full potential of the external creation coding template directly embodied. So what would it mean? Say Eckhart level 6 doesn't mean that it's only Eckhart level 6. If Eckhart level 6 then goes out back middle domains and inner creation and cycle turnaround and then come back, you also come back as full 48 coding plus the extra. So it's not only this, no, you bring the full potential back, the full potential of external middle domains, edons, the, what is it? Shaddai, edons of Shadi, I think it was. And the Hatur, Hub Council, and HL. Yeah. So in that way, yeah.
Lots of it.
Yeah. And also, like, what one person can do is able, the other person is not able. And the person may be able in the future, and other persons will never be able this lifetime. Like I remember one time in 2011 was a specific thing, and I merged, as Randy Green would describe it, multiple reality fields. So what is blending multiple reality fields in Keylontic science terms? It's when you blend harmonic universes into one. So you blend density 1, 2, 3 into one essence of being in full representation. When you are when you have your eyes closed and you look at your arm and you see your arm as full flame, white flame body, then you embodying that level completely fully. Then you embody your soul, your oversoul, and your avatar all in one space-time moment to address a specific problem.
Have you had that?
Yeah, one time, and I really, like, it had to do with Project Avalon and the Charles video, the Rulers of the World video, and he was the spokesman for the group from England, the Rulers of the World, the specific group. Well, they were doing something with a group of meditation with 33 people, and oh, what number am I visualizing? And you pick it up, and in that way playing, but at the same time, the oversight group was using that energy from them and using it for something else.
Okay, yeah.
Totally something else. So that was when I also simply acted in my fullness, like, okay, you want me awake? Yeah, boom, I'm awake. Now you have me in my full self. So I dealt with Charles's Masters, and then really when looking without eyes still looking, was like, 20, 30 meters in front of me, I had to look down. Like there's something new, because we are used to a 3D perspective from our human body, and you only look a little bit down to your kids, and if somebody is a little higher, a little up. But yeah, when you are in your, call it, full flame body or liquid light body, you are bigger. And if what you are dealing with is smaller, yeah, you have to look down. And I was like, what? Is that what I'm here for? And then I literally said to myself, it's not yet time. Because if you can do that, it basically means you can teleport and poof out. But then you also have to know how to poof back, otherwise you really poof out. Because that has to do with the physical body anatomy. When you are able to demanifest and remanifest, means you have mastered your full energy bodies as vehicle. But if it's not your time, it's not your time.
There's a lot to be said about like anchoring in all this and being able to stay coherent in the 3D anchor in itself, because you have all this other work that's happening, and for me this has been just essential to make sure I have like the anchor in itself has the proper understanding of how to operate here and what my role is here, because you can get caught up in all these other larger roles, and if you don't have the integration done properly, I think that's what we see played out in the group, the distortions of the hierarchy, of the negative hierarchies that are, or the negative psyche of hierarchy, I guess you would say, and the distortions, because there really is a hierarchy to all this, and that's to be respected. There is an anatomy, and there's these different levels of consciousness that get bigger and bigger as they go, and they work with the smaller, the as above, so below type thing. But if the person down here that's kind of running all this and aware of this and streaming all this doesn't have like a clear perception or a clear understanding, it's kind of too focused up here and not enough focus down here and not anchoring all of it properly, I think that's where some of the psychology of the distortion, the human psychology and stuff of the ego can kind of step in. And sometimes I've even had the perception that we may not be ready to hear about, so we may not be ready to know the larger identities yet. So those are kind of trickled down in our understanding, like gradually and at a slower pace. And of course, the archetype of healing is another thing too. People relating to archetypes and stuff and trying to tune. I think that's kind of a passage to the higher selves.
There's also Andrew said to me one time also, don't get lost on the mission by focusing only on the mission. You also need to take care, just like you have your normal life. If you don't focus on anything on your normal life, how are you going to do anything if your normal life crumbles and you lose everything everywhere you have and you cannot do what you want to do? Because you are so stuck only on the mission that you forget about all of the rest. You need to handle both things. So there's also balance. So that's also polarity integration. Isn't that what Tribe 12 always stood for? Polarity integration. And when you integrate, you are that balance point. And from that balance, you can handle with things easier. And sometimes you need to focus more on your 3D life because it needs your attention. And other times you focus a little bit more on whatever your specific mission is, or submission, or helping or assisting specific groups. So only focusing on the mission is also tunnel vision. And then you lose the other things. And sometimes you can have a very, very big knowledge and big picture overview. Sometimes if you miss a couple of key details, you miss things. Where you think you know and you miss details. And then I always say it like in the way in mathematics, if the sum is incorrect, the answer is always wrong. And it's that simple in basic terms. If the sum is incorrect, the answer is always wrong.
In just that little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting that you have a newborn daughter. How old is she now?
We are now on 12 January, so she is 14 days old.
That's beautiful.
So she's also born exactly on the frequency incoming wave activations.
Oh
So
my
also
God.
perfect timing.
Wow.
So in the same way, the names is not that we together, oh, which ones do you want and which ones do I want, and we together give this name. No, this name came through. As this is like when it comes to a couple of times, it's like, okay.
Two people in the mission. I mean, you said that your partner is active in this also. I mean, that's incredible. Like, and then
Yeah,
to birth and
we've done the plasma things and also in Ada already. Some things begin and no finish, like
yep, I
all
get
the
that.
way up to oh yeah, the Amethyst Awakening and the Emerald Awakening and Epsilon Seal and Amorea, and then up to the level of Amorea, and the other thing up to a level. So some things still to finish, some things are like still in the lingo ongoing. And that's the same thing. You cannot do everything at the same time, and it's also define the right timing, define the right order. And once you have everything in order, you also can act, define the right action. Because yeah, some people are only following and not doing, and other people are
Yeah.
working, following, and actually doing and being part of the change that people just want to sit on their ass, I have my plasma active, and the rest will come. Well, oh yeah, I think it was Stephen Redding who you also interviewed. I've not heard it yet, but
That's excellent. Yeah.
like with his Kistelai interview, it was, oh, I found your music and info on Emerald Guardians, and in that way backlink to me. And he also asked about, oh, the failsafe. Do you see another effect coming or whatever? What is your view? And I thought, no, there will be nothing like effect so. They can kill all of us, and the failsafe will still run.
Yeah.
Self thing.
She's been very clear about that from her line of information that it's there's even with or without our participation, and pretty much our participation. And that's why I wanted to ask you also, how do you feel? Uh, because there are cataclysmic type earth changes that we have been enduring in different countries, Haiti, New Orleans, all around the world. These different um, shifts of the plates, the earthquakes, and there's going to continue to be that. So she's kind of implied that doing the techniques hands-on here in 3D with Earth and through her changes is kind of assisting her in that process also as our healing. And the old saying, personal healing through planetary service, or planetary service through personal healing. So
Yeah, and even more better when you can do both.
yeah, yeah. Well, they go
That's
hand
why
in hand.
that's why my Tantriaja personal helper is from the Tantria Ra, which is the self-healing group, while at the same time I'm an active Emerald Order Guardian present, not only Elohai, but also the rest, and also Azeroth Council, and also from Inner Creation. So in that way, doing much, but at the same time also the self. And those go hand in hand. Because what was the other thing I wanted to say?
Yeah, I just have a couple more questions
Oh yeah,
here too. And then,
with the step down of the Crystal River host, because some things with the call it with the shit that happened, some things are now in other people's hands. It's not their work no more. No, other people take over the work and will do it. So that also means protocols. And I remember from one person saying to me, "Oh no, there's more protocols." But that had to do with my own things I know from personal experience. There is one downstep, and there is a secondary stream downstep via also specific places. So it has its own bridges. So the failsafe has a backup on the failsafe. So that's also security protocol. So in the inner creation densities, you have Sanctuary Island. You have what is the other one? Salvage, Sanctuary, and then Arias Island.
Sanctum,
Sanctum, and then Arias Island. Well, one up there is Island Ra.
Is what?
R-H-A, Ra.
The Reyes?
No, it's just simply Ra. I simply call it Iceland Ra.
Okay.
R-H-A. And that's in, if you have the maps where it shows all of the densities and what is
from the
manifest and internal creation.
Plasma generators and all this that were coming from the islands. Yeah. And yeah.
So
those were also three different paths. Those different islands represented the three different paths, I think, also, from what codings people had, different routes. There's always been like these really defined routes to make the availability of the mission accessible, like just to everybody here on the planet, no matter what. That's always been open for everyone to make the choice. And now people are making the choices. Now is the judgment day, you know.
Same way with the arrow sites. There are a couple of arrow sites that relate to the density 1 layer. And if density 1 unset passages are closed for a reason, also means those, call it level 1 arrow sites, are also not active. They will run in grid flow, but it's like kept sealed and it will not open, and not now and not in 100 years. So in the same way, you have bridges which connect. So the secondary plasma stream host is also a security protocol, where you have a second, a second engine, a second fuel, a second ability that you can use, where everybody works with this one. This one will be used for the secondary options. Same way as I drew one diagram picture with Voctara grids and the whole thing. That one is about VECA realignment. That's not something that will be in the workshop of Shandim, because it's not their work. That's other people's work. And VECA realignment means on universal shield VECA level realignment. To first of all break through the 11.5 dimensions is reconnection. Then you bring that potential back to the full 15 level via the secondary plasma stream, which will eventually be like, if you have here the cutoff point of the VECA, you bring the host energy from inside upwards and from outwards together, and those two things will pull it back into realignment. That's why it's in the workshop being described as it's something that has never been done in the Cosminia ever before. And where some groups don't think it was possible or not yet possible, so in that way, yeah, it's never been done before. And it's still playing out. That's the beautiful thing. You are living here as it's out playing.
Yeah, firsthand. Like we get firsthand experience of it and everything. I kind of want to switch gears here a little bit. This has been coming up a little bit in the interviews about the notion of, well, you know, some people do deify Yesha and kind of raise her up, and there is kind of an air of this being like a cult type thing. What is your definition of the group as far as like how it's projected towards the mainstream? Like what is your view of it? And what do you see in the future like with that? Like
you have some people that are actually followers, and they only, like if you say something and it's not yet written yet by her, then they want confirmation or you cannot speak about it. In the same way, a speaker is a speaker. It's a role, it's an assignment. Speaker speaks from the coding. That's the role. The other roles are not the speaker's job. So a speaker has the speaker role. If a speaker role is good fulfilled, you bring that information and down and out, good. Does it mean she knows everything? No. She's also telling it herself. I'm progressively learning the new stuff as it comes in, and some things, oh, now I understand. They already said something 5 years ago. It only fits the puzzle piece now.
She's been very clear on that, yeah.
Yeah. Same way with the Google Earth map. That one also has to do with the cathedral grid and linking in things. That will also not be in the workshop, because that's not about translating from disk. No, that's part of the actual mission team that's doing the actual cathedral grid, planetary Templar reclamation and restoration and healing and reconnecting.
But how do you see KS and just the overall group and everything? What is the appearance of it to mainstream? I mean, how do you see the future of like outreach and this being absorbed by mainstream, the planet and everything? Do you think that's ever going to happen, or is it always going to be this division of like elders that are holding the Templars and we learn this, and then there's just like mainstream or whatever? Like how would things change?
Like
Future Christic society.
simply call it for the external creation mechanics. Many things simply speak for themselves and they prove themselves. And when science catches up, it will prove things we already knew.
Right. Yeah.
Like many people are also like, in general, they want you to do all the work for them and you provide it on a silver platter to them. That kind of mentality. It doesn't work that way, of course. It's their own input. But now I lost my thought.
Like future Christic societies and stuff with science. I mean, we're already seeing like a merge of there's this fallen science, it feels like, from Atlantean times or Lemurian times, of like tampering with the gene code and giving your babies blue eyes and making them athletic and all these programming babies and food even now and patents on food and stuff. And then we have like the neuroscience and the neuroplasticity and the things
and like spintronics. Is also, you can Google it on YouTube, Japanese, spintronics. Because we also know about the ARPS, angular rotation particle spin.
Yes.
So that's now where you also have science called spintronics. Spin the atoms, and if you change something, it affects with what you are interacting with.
It's out. So it's already out there.
Okay. And then they can look back at the kinetic science. Take, for example, the big Templar field manual, the 400, 500 book pages one. I gave that one to Nassim Haramein, but remained quiet. I was like, oh, you know much, but you also have missing parts. If you go in here, you will find what you are missing.
You gave that to who?
Nassim Haramein.
Oh, really? He came up in Steph. Did you see Stephanie's interview? That's how, when she came into KS, she was studying some of his stuff. Yeah.
And other parts is also like the dimensions. In 1960 or 70, it would be general consensus in science there are 7 or 8 dimensions. 10 years later it was 8, and then it was 10, and now they are at general mainstream science consensus. There is 11.5 dimensions.
Oh, really? I haven't heard that.
So and then you can show exactly why it is 11.5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And in that way, the material proves itself.
Yeah, it does.
And even more, when you have a base core construct, it's a repeating pattern, and once you, it's like,
Well, she was like even mentioning in the Katie Dale courses that NASA has been launching satellites to study the tetrahedron and the Markov fields of the planet. You know, that's interesting.
Same for the sun. The sun only has one
solar symbiosis, and
no, I mean of the electrical and magnetic, the sun only has one triangle active.
Okay.
And how that also is scientifically proven, and how it's every X many switches, but only one pole is active.
That's not normal, right?
No, because that has to do with the history of the sun gate and all of
the the tilt of the axis and
exactly. Or same as for what you said earlier about Earth changes. Like it would not be good for humanity when Earth would shift in 1 minute back into realignment. It would make one big destruction.
Yeah.
If you do it in one shift in 1 minute. It would shift the Earth crust and the magnetic and everything. So it goes gradually. That it doesn't make the big crust Earth shifts and all of those things, but still slowly realigns.
She mentioned that it sounds like they are starting to study solar symbiosis and detecting where the distortions are and stuff. I just wonder where that's going to lead. Also, the dry fasting thing is amazing right now. There's some people in KS participating in this, including myself. But I totally believe that there is a breatharian type thing that we're kind of leading to. It's probably going to be a long ways, just like the 900 years thing. but I believe there's something to ketosis. Have you studied much of this, of not needing
Know
food?
about it, and I've also read a video interview from Lilo Mays, and there were a couple who were not fully Breatharian. They still needed a little bit of water, but mostly running the energies. Same way as in Kilonic Science, you had the solar and the lunar salutations. Remember those ones?
Say it
People
again.
also the solar and the
Oh yeah,
lunar
yeah, yeah, yeah.
salutations.
That's what
That's also
NASA's
for
studying too.
the solar symbiosis
Yeah,
and the flow.
exactly.
You need to pick in
Certain
the
things at
magnetics
night,
and
certain
the
times.
electrics.
Yeah.
If you want to keep your butterfly flow flowing, but first you have to jumpstart your butterfly. First you have to have your 144 correct if you want the lion to have butterfly wings.
And you got to get out of the yin yang into the yang yun. Like the yin yang
Yeah.
is distorted and everything. Yeah.
And even when via my girlfriend's blog, when she posted the Yan Yun one from Kelontic, a science guy who is, I think it had to do with also electric and magnetics, but he could understand the flow and see the difference in how what he knows already learn and what this implies. Even though not understanding anything about it, he could see it like, hey, yes, this has something what it should be, but it isn't at the moment. And at the same time was one post from Crystalline. Some things of her stuff is okay, and other things is like laughable, where you see material getting twisted and turned around, and one group becomes the other group. So then I
Who
know,
is this? Who is this?
Crystalline,
Crystalline?
Crystalline, Angela Barnett. That's the one
Okay.
how Stephen Redding also one time spoke about. But I have a couple of
Okay. Oh,
info
okay. Okay.
posts
Yeah,
that also
she was
uses
offering.
Kilontic info, but some of those material works text is like so distorted and twisted, and that I can read through it what the other group, whoever it is trying to do. When you have the full picture, yeah, you cannot be played. So, but one of them was a good one. It was about also with backlink to NASA. So that's for mainstream science proving Keylontic science. The sun was emitting positrons. And positron is the opposite, is the antiparticle of the particle, which in normal science is impossible. But if the sun is emitting positrons, that's like a blending of the PCM and PCK and the reunion of the
Yep.
energy flow and emitting it outwards.
So is that
Positron.
the other triangle, or the tetrahedron that's
No,
activating? No.
no.
Okay.
That has to do with the merging of the particle and the antiparticle, and
Okay.
then having the full energy flow running, and that being able to go outwards into the solar system.
Well, there's another thing with the Van Allen belts that I've been actually. It feels like I'm firsthand experiencing some of this with my own brain because I mean, there's the distortion of if you're on a planet that has this electromagnetic field tampered with, the chronosphere obsolete, and all these different things that are supposed to be there, and the inhabitants have this split brain that looks like the Van Allen belt in our own brain, where our brain is split. It makes sense, that there's a lot of there's going to be a lot of changes in the psyche and how we handle our emotions and the bipolar stuff and all the back and forth things. And I've been experiencing a lot of that firsthand. What's your take on the Van Allen belts healing right now?
Yeah, it's yeah, it goes with the nets, I think,
Okay.
and also the misalignment. So you have nets blocking things out, and same way you have specific hibernation zones which are more in the atmosphere versus the ones
Yeah.
in the little
Hibernation
bit
zones.
crust.
Hibernation
So
zones
those
were the
also,
fallen parts of Atlantis after the destruction that got trapped in space time, from how I
yeah,
understand it.
they were literally reverse light polarity switched. So that's why you have sometimes sinkholes from one part completely to kilometer down. It's yes, because it changes the D1, D2, D3 in full opposite spin. So
Totally
opposite
screwed up.
spin means it will take everything in that area out.
And they're
So yeah,
trapped there. There's like souls like trapped in hibernation zones, like frozen kind of consciousness.
and that's some part of Renegade. That is correct. Because I don't agree, of course, with everything with her about it, and don't follow it in the way. But sometimes you can pick up the little clues and tips and things that you can use and think about. Like the hibernation zones are now restoration zones.
Okay.
So rehabilitation
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
restore.
Yeah. I think she's actually mentioned that there was healing happening in the hibernation zones also. And, you know, the way showers and the review loops, the review planes and stuff. Yeah. All right. Well, I have like 3 more questions here. I want to ask you, what is the most challenging part of following these teachings and doing this work for you?
When you light yourself up on the map, you become a target also. So it's better to fly under the radar than to fly in the open. Yeah, and other thing, yeah, it's also, yeah, if you're looking for trouble, you can find trouble. And at the same time, if you are interacting with big things on the biggest level with the biggest players, yeah, then actions will also have responses. So same way when Basra, Iraq, Q side. Is that Q side or main side? Q. Basra, Iraq. And I think it's Q.
I don't recall the Q sites. I haven't learned all of it yet. I don't have it memorized anyway. I know Stonehenge is Q site 11, all that.
But I remember after securing that one, Peru sanctuary Avalon was attacked, and Adashishol informed me about it so I could assist in
They,
dealing with the attack that happened.
they gave themselves away type thing. Yeah.
Then I wrote about that in maybe Indigo forum group, or the one from Tia, the Awake and Aware, where she said, since you know about Peru that was under attack, it was actually a couple of other places also that were at the same time attacked. So they usually direct action and reaction. Same way, to bring it back to my original start point of interaction, when I took over guardianship of Gate 12, Lake Titicaca was for 6-7 days constantly, like under constant barrage attack, but failed.
So the most challenging part you would say is trying to stay off the radar from your experience?
Off the radar and still do what I need to do.
Still
And
do.
also don't take shit. It's like you have the department of bullshit. So with the opposition group list, there was one remaining group, Templar Melchizedek. It was still problem group. They are now no more. They are now deconstructed back to source. By their own action, they were given the choice, but they were not given the choice as the other one got. Because their own actions made the consequences for them.
Deconstructed back to source space dust, right?
Yeah. And same way, one specific fallen Iquari UB being fatal E that infected specific peoples also taken care of. So in that way, it's also cleaner.
You're just like so privy to all this stuff that's happening. I think it's amazing. It would be really good to network with other people that are doing these stealth type missions and things and kind of bring everyone together in this, because I think there is a consciousness that's starting to open to enable humanity to do that with group consensus and group memories of things that we don't have necessarily proof of here in the 3D. Have you heard of Adam Apollo?
Yeah, I did read something about it and also some info about him, but basically it would be like, I think I can even, without naming something, can say something.
I'm not keyed into his story per se. I'm keyed into the dynamics of his story and how he's claiming there's 50 people, all right? But I don't know how far he goes. He hasn't brought these people forward yet. But the dynamics of having even a few people that have precise memories where they pick up where they left off, a group of friends, a little group shield that has very crystal clear visions and memories and precision to this, to the effect that they can translate it in together, and say, oh, and then you did this and I remember that, and it's confirmed, in these lifetimes.
I think
Yeah,
that
but that's also a problem because he uses the term Guardian Alliance,
yeah, he
but
does.
he's actually from Illuminati line. Doesn't make it bad. Same way Lisa Renee is from Illuminati line, but in the healing bioregenesis and fully having done all the work. So in that way, that's also healing and regaining self, and in that way, yeah, representing. But um, so he uses the term Guardian Alliance, but you can be sure he has not done all of the techniques you have done.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's only the anti-word. So we know about the Akashic memory implants, the Abaddon, the all the levels of the false memories and the false Akashic.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
what are they talking about? When I have two main quotes I like to say, not say, but simply have written one time and they are good. One is, it's all connected. And the other one, differentiation is key. So when it's all connected, but we know about false memory matrix implants on soul, oversoul, and galactic and universal level, which memories are real and which memories are implanted and which memories are used to play those people together to be used by the same group.
This can get very political too. I don't know if you heard. Well, yes, you did. You heard Paul's interview, and there's conflicting interests in some of the agendas, even with the entire Guardian Alliance as a whole. That there's so many different facets, so many different ideas. I think that kind of bounce back and forth. That they're, I don't want to use the word division because they are part of the same council, they are part of the same overall group. But of course, you have to have the differential, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like in four densities, spread across space-time and factors, you have maybe even more, but I'm just using a number for example. You have 20,000 different groups that are part of the alliance in all, in this, there, and there, and there. So the GA is on the oversight of the IAFOA, International Association of Free Worlds,
Yeah.
which is the liaison between Yanas. Same way as specific groups, they will not even be dealt with by them anymore. You have screwed up so many times in the past. We are tired of you guys. You will not talk with you. You will go via them, and that's it.
This is your mission, not ours.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so in that way, there's been so much change in the last 2.5 years that has not been on planet in the last 200,000 years. So that will also reflect how specific beings on planet that are of specific groups react or get support from higher level when higher level has accepted host, and how that affects the future probabilities.
There's some things that didn't relate that Paul was saying that he remembered differently that happened in the histories, according to what Yesha had presented in Voyagers, and with the Elohim and the Elohai. And I'm wondering, like, if there are in fact like different probabilities, of course, that we've been taught, sliders 4, 5, 6, the probability maps and everything.
This one is more the angle of perception.
Yeah.
From which perception group at a specific time are you looking at it, and from that way showing it.
Well,
just
the
like
official
yeah.
history is
But
what.
I can also say something from personal info with the whole opposition groups and where manipulation was coming from, and like Anu Elohim was going through the Elohim Council. You will know the term Elohim Council. It's been many times talked about. I can today make the claim the Elohim Council is no more. It's disbanded, discontracted, and support removed from all higher levels, and it's
Elohim
gone.
was fallen from the Elohai, right?
And that's I think, density 3 Elohim Council.
Okay, yeah.
So those ones,
Creator
in the
gods.
long history we have now they are no more.
Creator ET races, right?
Discontracted, removed, and a new council has been put into place, and oversight and groups have accepted the new council and oversight and aligned.
Who's the new council?
That will be for the future to be told.
Okay. All right. So I have a couple more questions. What's the most joyful part of studying these teachings for you? What brings you the most joy in it, in participating and the different dynamics of it, I guess?
I guess eventually it all boils back to the inner connection and inner rest. Because that's also what everything now is about. It's not about ascension no more, it's about inscension. So you have everything inside you need already. So it's the inner joy, it's the inner pleasure, it's the inner remembering, it's the inner balance. Even though many things may be going on outside, you can either be pulled into the drama or step away from it and detach, engage, and still see. And it won't always be easy, and sometimes there will be personal things that come, and sometimes it's about recognizing one's own patterns, because that's also the mental part. When you recognize specific things, you can stop it in its track, and in that way change the pattern, the habit. So that's, yeah. And the biggest joy is, like, we are here for all sentient beings, no exceptions. That's simple. It's not only about angelic humans or only about this one or that one or those ones. No, we are here for every sentient being.
That means fatality, draconians, and
Yeah, same way about dark flowering, and people up to 30% can be fully healed, the other one so and so and so and so. Nah, like, with one part, there's a group being hosted out that relates to the equerry, that relates back to Moldak, which was also an equerry planet. That's correct info from Paul Terriot. That's things other people not speaking about. So that's also bringing to surface that knowledge back to bring in those missing parts, because in some aspects, because it's so big history, many things Kilontic has focused about is the war history parts, all of the conflicts, and making the big picture. Didn't even have time to go into details about all of the other things, because then it would take another 30 years if you want to overview that picture.
like 12 tribes, huh?
Yeah, 12 tribes was very good. So, yeah, biggest joy is simply being. Like Shakespeare, I always say, to be or not to be is not the question, you already are. So when you already are you gonna be?
Right. It takes that time out of it. Yeah. What's the hang on, let me get back here. What is the most important dream that you've had since participating in KS and the teachings? And that can be like a dream that you had or a vision or something that comes to mind, I guess, that stands out, or even a voyage, I guess.
Oh, the most funny one was like an artificial created dream time that had to do with Obama, where it was like more a movie script where you play out a script and you don't really have freedom of moving, but you are like a bodyguard where there are many people fleeing from beside the river, and in that way playing out the thing, and in that way seeing it from that perspective, and then knowing that it's possible for those things to be done. And the other thing, yeah, like there's so many different types of dreams of interactions, but also work in dream time, that there wouldn't be a single specific one. And sometimes I have very bad recollection of dream time, where my girlfriend has very clear. So sometimes it's also better not to know here down here, because then you can also not compromise it in one any way, shape or form when it stays there. Yet you still know now. So that's sometimes also protocol.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Do you have anything else that you would like to, a message that you would like to leave for newcomers or people that are watching this in KS? Anything in particular you could leave us with?
I always say, if you have questions, ask. Most people are sometimes even too afraid to ask questions, but it's the question, the type of question, that decides what type of answer there will be. And sometimes people have an open question and they want a specific answer, and it doesn't work that way. But if you have a specific question with specific intention behind it, yeah, a correct answer can be given on it, which is the balance in interaction and exchange between the two persons, where you maybe have a puzzle part you were supposed to give the person back in the finite timing when the person chooses for it. So never be afraid to ask or question or ask for confirmation, or if you have doubt, what do you think? Oh, you think the same thing? Oh, yeah, me also, so I was correct. Or
To talk about your
so,
questions, even
yeah,
bring your questions up, which is what this platform is all about. Just raising up questions one person might have a view on, and another person across the world might relate to that view, and it might inspire more questions that are going to bring more light to this whole thing.
and it's the inner trust himself.
Yeah.
It's the most important key thing, and even for me. Like, you can read in the Emerald Guardians group the part, the Petra post, and then the comments, and then the last ones from Future Age Sage and me, and then see what did it start with, what did we find, like when you make topology of an area, and you assess what do we have there, and then how we deal with it, and after it, what has changed, and then see the effect of it, and then me asking him, oh, I say so and so and so. Can you check to confirm what I'm saying, thinking is? And he confirms. So then you get the confirmation back, and then you also, yeah, you don't need pendulum with your higher self to confirm it when you already know it, and then that way, standing more in your own power, knowing that it is. Because people always doubt themselves. Even me,
Yeah.
even you.
Totally. Yeah.
Nobody is perfect in that way. And we always have doubt. It's a part of the split consciousness, left, right, and personal problems. Everybody has their own personal problems that shape them into who they are now.
Well, I think a lot of this is some of it really is very distinct doubt of self, but a lot of this also is the Christic's history is presented is that we have been a cloistered group of beings on this planet and through this whole mission, where we have wanted to kind of refrain from coming forward in the public light and to share these truths and to talk about our experiences and stuff because of the past histories where we've had to do that. We've had to preserve them silently throughout the ages, and I think we're kind of transmuting that part of ourselves now where we're developing a voice to speak to the public more openly. And hopefully this can be a broader and broader platform for that to occur and inspire other platforms that can emerge from it as well.
And some of us also are simply also tired.
Yeah, we're just tired. I don't want to talk about it.
I check with Pendulum because somebody made a joke which wasn't a joke, but I'm like, okay, let's check how old I am in this time matrix. So this time matrix is 950 billion years old, which is a mega long time. I came in somewhere 450 billion years ago. So then you can put it in a historical time frame, what happened after, and yeah, well, then you have a good reason to be tired.
Yeah. You could be like a toddler here at this age, and then you're like a teenager, and I mean, you can scale it in that fashion, you know, you really can.
And so in that way, what is important for joy to be? Joy, laughter. Because if everything is only so serious and serious and serious and no joy and laughter, it's also no good.
Yeah, that's
all. You must have that joy. That's what Duncan opinion also many times. If it wasn't for our laughter and joy, yeah, we would also totally self-destruct eventually, or make mistakes, or simply not handle it able no more. So yeah, that's why joy is also an important part.
We wouldn't have made it this far, that's for sure. There wasn't some joy preserved in it, in participating.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, this is really, I met you just like a couple weeks ago, and now we're talking, and I hear more of your story. It's just wonderful. I love the people in this group. I love participating in it. It always comes back to me through spirit, so that's why I know that it's something that I need to definitely contribute and to participate in. So we'll talk again soon, hopefully, and hopefully this interview will inspire some others as they have. Paul's has really been a big one. So it got Stefan to come back, which I had interviewed Stefan like last year, and he listened to Paul's just out of nowhere, and it got him to come back to share another interview. So that was really
Oh
good.
yeah, like the part about Egypt and Blue Flame. My
Yeah.
girlfriend was also a priestess there at the same time, so they know each other
Okay.
from that specific time frame incarnation directly, even though now other part of the planet and so and so. But yeah, they were in the same space time. So in the same way, yeah, many people that were back then there, and in the Christ period there, and in the period before that, we are all here again. Hi, hi.
Yeah, exactly. Like Stefan remembered the part about building Earth, and that's why he was saying like he would have never gone on an evac, like he would have stayed here. So that brings to notion that maybe there was other parts of the mission that people knew about before, like during the whole evac thing, that I wasn't going to leave because I know there's fail-safe codes in this planet to be activated, and we can't go anywhere. And that's how
Or
much
then
a
maybe
theme you could be, you know.
then maybe I'll check the name and I'll link a person here from Holland who I introduced into some of the diagrams, who then started to make drawings. And yeah, also drawings are like the diagram, things is frequency imprint. So the person that are seeing it are being frequency blasted and potential for healing. He, with a radio interview with Andrew Bartjes, was also told he was one of the 12 original persons in the beginning of the creation of Earth, and then they mean from density 2 to 1, where the soul essence of Earth soul started, and then consciousness coming in, being the first organism, being the first, yeah, like the literal the first building life, where it all steps out from. So maybe I can link those two people together because
Yeah.
they will have a core link.
Yeah. So
Same way
you think
it
like
was
how I
back then.
think. I feel somebody on one level, and then I meet somebody on another level. These people need to come together. Like they have something to talk about, you know. That
The same way, like Andrew said to him, oh, you need to find the crack in the universe. That's the one point where spirits can come in and out. And then we give him info. And then he says, Rakmeister, did you just show me where the crack in the universe is? And I said, yes, I did.
You said what? What was the last part?
He said to me, did you just now show me where the crack in the universe is? And I said, yes, I did.
Yes, you did.
So in that way, correct timing. Same way now it's the correct timing. Last year this conversation would have not yet been correct timing.
Yeah.
Now it is.
Yeah.
Even more to speak out and simply stand in one's own power of knowing.
Yeah.
And if you can sense others or hold the space, good. And other things is still person's own free will, respect it also. Same way, don't matter what person's path is or is, respect them. Don't judge. Don't feel yourself better, or because that's again polarity game. Better, worse, good, bad, infected, not infected, working on it, not working on it. We are part of course, so we are more important. That's the same drama over and over and over again.
It
Just
is.
like Paul in a comment also said, like, look how many times in the past specific guardian groups were blocking each other, or they didn't know that this one was doing this one and
Exactly.
they blocked this one, and over and over and over and over and over again.
It's just really good to hear a voice like yours to be able to like come forward and say, yes, there are other things happening in this work. Yes, there are avenues you can explore and connect with your own connection with source to contribute to, you know, and to
Same way,
awaken.
splits can be healed because people, the collective represented, I said it, some people will understand, some people don't, but it's the triggering remembering. I said they made the ancient mistake again.
Yeah, yeah.
Again.
Oh, I felt that too. I felt it too. I know.
And that's why it was funny, good funny, not sarcastic funny.
Yep.
At the end of December, Michael Dean himself liked my Emerald Guardians page. So that way is also good.
He's been commenting on my posts too and liking my things too. I know. And that story is yet to be told. His story is yet to be told. So.
Oh, I can talk about some things that I know from observing in the background about the inner group of his group of the project Aurora of remote influencing high financial people. But I don't think they want that info out in public. But that's why JP, the guy you heard my interview with, he said to me in the past, I can be controversial. Well, I don't have a problem to be controversial. It's only from whose eyes it is perceived as controversial.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm not afraid to speak out or address or point out things. No, absolutely not. And that's also needed.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. Whatever truth you have to offer, the table has arrived for us to offer the truth on. You know, it's there.
So thank you for this interesting talk.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. I appreciate it. And we will talk again soon.
Is good. Take care. Oh yeah, and I see Alurea Arashatan right behind your tree. Correct? On the right side of you?
Over here?
No, to the right of you. Right back, below ground. On the ground.
Right down there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually have a big poster of one over here. I'd have to move my camera, and I got the Virtue 13 over here, and then yeah, I've got strategically placed codes and stuff, and the what's that called? The High code has like the cross on it from Flame Body, and I have the Akasha in my bedroom. So yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe I'll in future, because that will also be controversial, address the original Akasha.
Okay.
Because
Yeah,
that one is
because
from
of
the year
your drawing.
2000.
Okay.
And yeah, just like somebody was saying, oh, the Amareya buffer came way later than the Maharik seal. And well, I'll just say, not everybody will like what they will hear.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to take, you know.
Sometimes you have to stir up the pot a little bit.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I believe in that.
Okay. So until next time.
Until next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.